Let's see. Whoops. I have to go to the right screen.
By the way, how's your drink
Whoops.
with the
That's not
cream?
It was lovely.
It's already gone.
Apparently.
So, what are we talking about? It was lovely. All right. So I have you guys up on the regular chat right now. I'm going to go make us drinks and then get you back. So feel free to chat.
Chat. Oh, yeah.
And
Install
such.
Steam.
Yes. And let's see.
Install Steam.
I will. Oops. Oh, that's not what I meant to do, but shoot.
I'll have to make sure to use it.
Darn it. I didn't do that.
Oh. It's like
Hey, I was able to join you from the friends list. All right. I'll be right back with drinks.
Roger.
Kettle beans.
I am installing the Steam now. No.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Actually, I have my laptop downstairs too. I guess.
I should probably join the chat actually and say hi to everybody.
Maybe.
That whole show thing. I keep forgetting we're doing that.
Was your cup so that you could?
Yes.
Oh yes, I brought a cup too.
What did you do with your cup?
I put it in my backpack. Computer genius.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Take it around and see how it goes.
Yes. Can you hear me okay, Ken?
Yeah, can you hear you good?
Okay, good, yes. I just want to make sure.
Loud and clear, sir.
Okay. Want to make sure because I'm not very close to the microphone.
You should invite her for a barbecue. Maybe bring over for dinner, double date, that kind of thing.
Oh my. We've got to come up to Scotland then. I'd love to do that actually.
Well, you're always welcome.
I know that's one of our many places on our list.
Yeah.
Basically, most of Europe.
Kinda, yeah.
Some of it.
Right.
Japan. Yeah. Russia, except that they're kind of not a good place to visit right now.
Not as an American, no, probably not.
You know, among other things.
I think I could probably go and not feel too concerned, so long as you don't go down the wrong areas. I was recently in Prague for work.
Really?
In the Czech Republic, and it's an ex-communist country, and that was quite interesting to see. It's like when you first land, you look around all the buildings, and you're like, "Oh wow, this place is depressing," because it's just lots of these giant concrete buildings that were built to host millions of people for events and for sports events, that kind of thing. But they're empty and they're abandoned.
Holy crap.
And it's a bit of a strange feel to it, and it feels like a government and a country that was once aiming for the heights of society and trying to do something amazing, and then the government fell and they're still feeling that collapse. That's what it feels like. But then you sort of drive into the city center more, and you're like, oh wait, they just put all their money into tourism, and it's actually beautiful and amazing in the middle of the town. It's just the outskirts that's still very like ex-communist.
Wow. Wasn't that oh god, no, I can't think of the car show from England. Wow.
Top Gear?
Top Gear. Didn't they actually have an episode in there where like they'd built these like 8-lane highways? I think that was Prague. Maybe it wasn't, but they were totally abandoned because the city was abandoned, and so they were racing up and down these 8-lane highways.
That's cool. I don't know actually, because I know that Prague's doing a lot better these days, largely due to the tourist trade. And there's a lot of money going in there from the EU and stuff, but I don't know. I would imagine that's probably more likely to be Slovakia.
Cool.
Woo!
And
It's a thing to experience.
yeah, definitely. Aha! So I think we were already talking. Probably the first. Neither of us have actually been out of the country yet, and I think our first choice is to go to Paris in a couple of years because Disneyland.
Because I'm a Disney nerd.
So
Cool.
Disneyland.
So Disney here is nothing on Disney Florida. I've done both, and this one is much smaller. So just don't expect Florida 2.0. It's more like Florida beta.
I grew up with Disneyland every single summer, so I kind of figured that it would probably be a smaller park compared to Disney World, because we did Disney World for our honeymoon. So, yeah.
Cool, so did we.
Yeah, we
Small world.
liked Disney as the park when we were visiting Florida, that was about all that we liked. Everything else was pretty much a disaster.
Florida, at least Orlando, had a lot of issues. People there are kind of...
well, Florida man is from that area, right?
Yeah.
I think that kind of says it all. But hey, if you're going to come over to Europe, it's such an expensive and big trip. You know, find a hub and spend a couple days in different places. You know, spend a couple days in Paris. Flying over to London, it's like £30. It's like $50. It's cheap.
Nice.
Like if you're willing to do all the traveling, hopping back and forth, and plus most of Europe is connected by train, and it's quite cheap to travel by train. Yeah, if you're willing to do it, it's a fantastic thing to do. Just take like a couple weeks, explore various countries. You know, you can go see, I don't know, Romeo and Juliet's balcony in Verona in Italy. You can. You can go see Munich in Germany. You can see, you can go and see some good old World War II, extremely fun places to visit that'll make you feel like a very, very small, but make you a much bigger person. All these kind of things.
You know, I could chalk that up to business expenses as research for my books.
Well, yeah, I mean, fantasy books tend to be based in ancient European places, so you'll need to go visit various castles, and they're all across Europe, you know.
Mm-hmm. I just need to visit London, since most of mine takes place in London.
Yeah, granted, London's
Victorian, but
very
still.
different than it used to be, but yeah.
Hey, there's still places in London that feel very old architecturally.
I could visit all those old spots for Jack the Ripper murders.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting.
God, yeah.
Go on the tours and such.
I wonder if there's actually someone who does the tours where they take you around the different locations.
I think there actually is, honestly.
There are, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting drink indeed. I was actually trying to figure out...
Ooh, like it.
Because we've seen 3 of the 4 kingdoms in my books. The 4th one I never really described the architecture, so I'm like, there's an opportunity there. I should make it different from everything else. Not... Yeah. What else from mid?
Well, if you're thinking architecturally how to visit Europe, London's a bit of a mishmash. So's Prague, because Prague's been there for so long and never been devastated by war. So you know, as you scan the horizon from high up, you can see different parts of the towns growing through different eras. And it's crazy. You'll see like Gothic architecture. Next to it, you'll see Italian influences. Next to it, you'll see a mosque. It's just really weird. Different building materials, different styles, and so on. It's crazy. If you go to Amsterdam, you'll see lots of really squished together large buildings that are sort of like flats. They're really tall, but really, really, really thin and skinny. And it's because there was a rule enacted a few hundred years ago where the taxes were based on how wide your plot of land was. So people started building up. Very small bits.
Yeah, that makes sense, so that you minimize what they're actually going to measure for taxation.
Yeah, exactly, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a quite interesting history to it. And the architecture looks really unique.
Careful. All right, so... on our end, it's, you know, so just as early background for people, since I don't know how soon everyone will kick in or what will happen during the middle of this as we go, because I'll do the actual intro to the show here at the top of the hour like we would normally, but also my cousin, because he's moving out tomorrow, his folks are supposed to come to town some point today to help him pack things up and drive him across country. So we may in the background get moments of things moving in and around and
cool
hostile moving like boxes and stuff down, so we'll see. But yeah. And so these are, so for those who know, and are the mimosa side of these are, it was suggested to me at work actually by friends, I think by Campo, go figure, because if there's anything alcohol related, it has to be associated with Campo. But these are energy drink mimosas. And so they have
I've heard of them before.
The orange energy drink in them.
Oh yeah, that's right.
With some, as well as some orange juice and champagne. Sweet. Not officially champagne, of course, but bubbly.
Tastes good.
And so,
yeah, they're yummy.
And I figured because this would be almost like a breakfasty or early morning here-ish type show as we get going.
I've never understood that.
that, it's orange juice. Therefore, it's like a breakfast thing, right?
Oh, right. Sorry, it's so yummy.
Yeah, it's juice.
It's 12 o'clock.
I've never understood this whole mimosas for the morning thing. Like, that's something that my in-laws and my wife has always said. Mimosas are a morning drink. I don't understand what a morning drink is. It's just crazy to me.
Alcohol. Okay, no, that's not the case.
It has OJ in it. OJ's normally drunk in the morning. I don't know.
That's the key, right? Because orange juice is traditionally figured or felt like it's a morning juice. That you'd often have it with breakfast. I don't regularly drink orange juice other times of the day. I don't know if anyone else does, but me personally, orange juice for me is definitely a breakfast one. And so it makes sense that once you're going to add alcohol to it, why not? The interesting thing, though, is because you don't normally think about it, though, when you think of screwdrivers.
Yeah.
Which are the traditional.
Yeah.
Because screwdrivers just vodka and orange juice. But at the same time, I'd never heard anyone talk about them like they're a morning drink.
Although, if it's cold in the morning, vodka. You want it.
You want the vodka to make you feel as though you're warming up, because that's totally what happens.
What's going on with Panda?
See, stream is just stuttering all over the place.
What? Try refreshing browser. It should. I'm not dropping any frames.
And I'm not streaming anymore,
and so it should be. Well, no, I haven't dropped a single frame since we started pushing. So I don't know if it's because it's a mix into. Sorry. Yeah, I was gonna say. Now, granted, I am pushing 6 megabit this time on the Twitch channel.
No, it is fine. Cupcheck says it's all fine, so I think it might just be Hando's in a minute.
Gotcha. So,
Sorry, Hando.
So if you guys have ever seen the movie Red Heat, a very old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, he's a Russian who comes to America to work with the police, and the police chief is all, got soothing music, the Sun Oceans in the background, because I need, to calm down because I'm so pissed off. And then he's like, cop to cop, tell me, how do you guys deal with it in Russia? Schwarzenegger, all stoic face, just goes, vodka.
We use vodka, yes.
It's vodka.
And I also apologize because there is a fan hum in the background, but that's because it is warm all around us.
Oh, it's all good.
He's toasty.
It's so toasty.
I can't even hear any background music or whatever, any music, and I don't hear the fan, so it's all fine.
Well, I say this because I keep seeing the bouncing on my levels where it's like, it's still there.
It's background. It's all fine. So, before we go any further into the show, I don't know if we've technically started or what.
Well, this is our normally would be music pre-show, but as this is the 400th episode, this is us just kind of like we were playing some games and chatting a bit, and it's one of those where we are opening it up for people to join us. And so if people want to jump in on the Skype call, anything like that, we can expose others so that we can all chat together and talk about all things Show X as we go forward with this. I was going to...
Yes, those things are better with booze.
Right? But yes, before we go any further, I'd like to give a couple of toasts.
Oh,
I've got more than one. I've got more than one. So, first of all, I'd like to give a toast to all the listeners of our show, all the supporters of our show, supporters, people who just listen to us, hang out with us, support us on Patreon or Twitter or Facebook or wherever. Anybody who hangs out with us and takes part in the show, including those who come and actually join us in the show and talk with us sometimes, friends of the show and such. I'd like to toast us all for the 400th episode. Now, let me just remind you guys of how long that is. We on average do 2-hour shows, but some of our shows have been 24-hour. Some have been like 10 hours. Some have been 5 hours.
And there's been a few shorter. There's been some shorter ones. So I mean,
a couple shorter ones. But on average, most of them are about 2 to 3 hours. And I'm fairly certain we've pushed over 1,000 hours because of this. So that's a long time. That's a lot of shows. And not only that, we've been doing this show for oh god, like a decade. I don't even know the official date. We should really find out the start date.
So, admittedly, I was going to, because we'd have to go back to the audio side, to the old stream, to look at when the first Show X was aired. Because for me...
Well, it must be about 4 years. It's 52 a week, 52 a year, right? So it must be about 4 years.
It's been some level of time, and I don't know for sure.
53, 354. I would say 8 years, because if that's an average of 50 shows per year and 400 shows... That's gotta be like...
Oh, yeah, my math was terrible. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, 8 years. Jesus.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It has been a length of time, for darn sure.
Absolutely. So a big toast to all the community of ShowX, and thank you all for supporting us for all this time. It's been much appreciated, and it's been so much fun over the years. And it's nice to have, no matter what's going on in our real lives, we always have our online group of friends here. So cheers to everybody involved in taking part in ShowX. Cheers.
Cheers! Huzzah!
Huzzah!
And we'll probably do that again through the show once we get the normal time frame when everybody hopefully will show up. Because I think that will be a lot of fun.
Looks like H2O wants to join in a call.
Well, so as I've told anyone who wants to jump in, he was looking on getting his Skype in there. So let's see. Oh yeah, you can call in and jump in and join into the fun. This will be a big, long, everything involved. Just make sure people that you have your microphone set up so that you're not, preferably decent either headset mics or such like that, not open speakers. Hando. And so that we can all go through it. Just joshing. But
wasn't my first.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with Farmer Hando calling in from his tractor. Chugga, 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 chugga.
Yeah, it was. My first time on the show was episode 200.
Was it?
Wow, that's funny.
Wow.
I remember that. That was when I first knew you, and first, yeah. It was just after I got my first book published. Damn.
Well, and that's
so
partly
you're
why.
Be here for the bicentennials.
I guess.
But that's also partly why when we were talking about coming on and that I thought it's totally appropriate for you guys to jump in and join us today. It's like, yeah, you've been here for quite some time. So I think it's totally appropriate.
Cool.
Absolutely. Right, we're going to have another round while we see if people call in or not.
So let's see. So yes. Oh, there we go. Let me go. I have to join you two. So, no, don't do that.
Oh no.
You're in the game.
I am.
He's the king.
Let's see. How do I... Wait, okay. Go back to the call with
remember
Ken.
how to do this. I've done it once before when I used to do...
Oh, okay, there we go. With Ken. And... Oh, there's the ad. Oh, so many people. The funny part is I should almost like start grabbing people from back in the day because I have still connections of people that have been on the show at some point. It looks like we should have a happy dude come check on with us now.
Hello.
There he
Hello.
is.
Hey, dude.
Hello there. Hello there.
Oh, it torps.
Awesome.
Y'all are doing your game and I'm doing mine.
Nice. All right, cool. So yes, on again. And so welcome. Although, let's see.
What was the name of the game you guys are playing?
Brawlhalla is what we are playing right now as we're getting ready to actually officially start the show.
I'm just curious.
In about 9 minutes, so we will do that. All right, and let's see. So with that, yes, Ken, I am totally ready to jump into another match with random stuff.
Dang it.
I like
Yeah, so this match we're going to be playing a mode called Switchcraft. I have no idea what it means.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello there.
Cupcheck. Are you going to join us for some Brawlhalla?
Oh no.
Can you not hear us?
I don't know. He might be working on his side of things, but yes, let's get the Brawlhalla on here. So,
Get it on, baby.
Yay.
oh wait, I
Oh god, I forgot how small my hard drive is on this laptop.
Okay. It says you are. Oh wait, did you?
What?
I forgot how small my
Testing,
Okay.
testing.
Hello?
testing.
Can you hear
Yo.
us?
No, it sounds
hear
like
me
you
now?
might be able to hear us.
You.
So how's it going, dudes? And do that.
Hey, we're just on here getting ready to, play some games as we're jumping on Brawlhalla. For anybody who wants to join in.
I don't know if I should play, but download it.
Free to play. It's 300 meg download on Steam.
Yeah.
You can get in
Very,
like 2 minutes.
very lightweight, so anyone can jump in.
Not lightweight.
And
it's lots of fun.
With the game.
I already have it downloaded. However, I am, keeping an eye on something else right now.
No, that is fine.
Okay, no problem.
Why are they not letting me?
Aye.
Well, thank you
Keep
for
an eye
calling
on
in
it.
to our 400th show. How's it going, Cupcheck?
Well, some good news and some better news. Which one you want to hear first?
Well, it depends. Do you want to share things for when we go through all started, or right now we're just kind of playing games and hanging out, getting ready?
It doesn't matter. But I got a job.
Well, that
Woo!
is
You got
good
one?
news.
Yep. And
Congratulations.
so I will be acquiring my own place here in the next couple of months or so. So, go
Very
me!
cool. Very
Nice.
Nice.
So,
Have you locked in, Wayne? I think I'm waiting for you to lock in.
It says I have. I thought I had. Yeah, it says for me, it says you're choosing a legend.
All right, let me
you
change
go.
a different one. Okay, now it's working.
Yeah, no, it says.
It wouldn't let me choose the little assassin guy for some reason. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, mine was bugging out too. Anyhow, go ahead, Cup.
and
Sorry.
Not to curse the stream or anything, but the last time I was on, it was me, Tab, and Wayne, and all of a sudden, Wayne's internet took a dump.
Hey,
Why would you say that?
Yeah, exactly.
Why
right?
would you say that?
No,
Why
so,
you gotta be so rude?
so the fun part is no, I'm not feeling as worried about it today. Are we doing like opposites? I think we're on opposite weapons.
I was wondering why I had this guy.
Yeah, I was like, wait a second. In the game,
It was also like 4 months ago since the last time I was called in, so we're good. Hopefully the curse has been lifted.
I hope so, because we want a clean show for this one.
Clean?
Well,
You
we
came
wanted
up-
to
Wow. You know what I mean.
It's relative.
I'm really surprised that as often as I used to call in, that I hadn't let like an F-bomb slip here and there.
You know, it's funny is
I
most
have, man.
Yeah. Well, we try to make the show as clean as it can be, so any audience, right?
E.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think we've done mostly good. We've had the occasional, because it's usually, I'd say, when you get emphatic, right? When you really care about something you're saying, it's amazing how the language we tend to use to express those ideas.
I disagree.
We're a little bit more
I'm feeling
colorful.
tired, man. When I'm tired, I'm like, and freaking other F word, and I'm like, oh wait, boy.
Well, I figured that was just, when you're actually talking Scottish.
Did you just throw your bow at him?
What are you talking about?
Oh.
Yeah, feel that one, Ken.
Not me.
So,
I guess I just got used to censoring myself at work.
well, and that's part of it for me. It's work, and honestly, I will say the cast has been probably the thing that has helped me more than anything.
The cast?
Broadcasting.
Oh, gotcha.
Just trying to be aware of the words I say and a little more cognizant as I'm going. Oh, did it?
Wait, who's using a keyboard to play?
Me?
That would be Wayne.
I said
Why?
because my controller's not
well,
set
it's either
up.
not play.
Oh.
I figured this is probably the more fun option.
Yeah.
True.
The problem is, like, for those who weren't paying attention, I had to reboot or I had to reinstall Windows between or before last week's show, and so
I'm sorry.
So in doing so, I am still recovering from that, if that makes sense. And so that is something where, yeah, I wish I wasn't doing that, but oh jeez,
What the?
that was the horn he called down. Oh.
He was horny.
But
I was
the
about to say.
hey,
Wayne has that effect on me.
Oh my!
No interest in the show, actually.
I knew that there was a bromance occurring somewhere. I just couldn't recall like how long ago it was.
Oh my!
Oh my!
This is
I
not
haven't
the first
experienced putting your hand through his hair, man.
Oh! Oh!
time. Oh, and
I haven't even experienced that.
see, people assume they're talking about the hair on my head.
No, the hair on his back. No.
You see now this has gone into PG-13 territory.
What are you talking about? What are you assuming
Don't
we
spit.
meant?
Yeah. Trying not to.
Hey, look, I just call it how I see it.
Oh, no fair.
Did he steal your weapon?
Well, no, he threw it at me and then picked it right back up. No!
Oh, nice.
Oh, that was a good shot. I will admit that was a solid shot. Oh man.
Oof.
What the heck was that?
So that's that horn. It calls forth some flaming something. God,
Flaming
get your
a-
little
yeah.
pokey.
It calls your specific weapon. So it's like when the game starts, you have the option of picking up like multiple different types. However, when you go in, I think it's on the Champ Select screen about how like you can modify the weapon. That particular weapon actually comes in for you.
I didn't get one kill. What?
That was an interesting mode. There's a whole lot of randoms going on with that one.
Yeah, that was a bit weird.
Yeah, I saw y'all play Bomb Holla.
Let's try
Yeah, that one was,
Strikeout.
I was very not good at Bomb Holla.
The water balloon one was kind of fun.
Water balloon's been my favorite so far. That
And
one
the
was
soccer.
that one was great. Soccer was crazy.
Me and a couple of my friends actually got together and did it. Think as crazy as it was with just you two. Picture a full party of 6.
Shoot.
Oh yeah.
Well, and that's what makes this such an interesting game, because you can get a lot of people in here. All right.
All right. I'm coming in.
Hey, we just started this next match, so you have to join the next one. All right?
It still has a press C to join. Oh, no, time's up.
Yeah, but the
Bless you.
time's 0. So.
Thank you.
Well, and then I think, let's see. Combination of
Oh, I like that background.
very steampunk.
Uh-huh. I still would love someday to that. Probably not discuss here.
Come on.
Ah! No.
That would be fun. Steampunk's a fun genre. But you gotta get away from the stereotypical tropes, otherwise it gets boring.
That's right.
Oh,
No.
Wayne, do you remember how I told you that I was able to modify my NES Classic day one that I got it?
Yeah.
So it turns out that if I was to acquire the Wii Classic controller,
Okay.
I would be able to play games on any console from the TurboGrafx 16 to the Sega Dreamcast.
Is that
Using my NES Classic.
Yeah, is that just because the controls are so universal to them?
Well, not really. Like each chord that you install is basically the emulator, so to speak. So for each individual chord, you can map individual emulation controls. So where you can seamlessly go from like an NES game to a Sega Saturn game without having to change anything. But this thing has more power in it stock than the freaking PlayStation Classic does, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen anybody actually talk through what
never
the
got on camera
physical
right now.
hardware in it is.
That would have been funny.
Oh, I love being able to poke you like this, Ken.
Oh
Oh
That was really
my!
annoying.
That's what she said.
Harder. No.
Whoa.
No.
He took a turn there.
Let's keep this PG, shall we?
So no voices then.
So, according to the rules, PG-13, if we want to go there, allows at least one F-bomb.
Can
So-
I get it out of the way? Can
No.
I get it out of the way? Come on, please. Please.
So that's one of those discussions as we go to talk about Show X and how we've come out to where we are today. You know, the idea of the decisions we've made specifically for the kind of audience and what we want to be able to provide. Oh no. Nah, man. I thought that was going to be a little more impactful than that.
Damn
Yeah.
my balls and their inability to hurt you.
Oh, that one hurt.
My.
There you go. My balls of steel.
Are you trying to catch him? He's not a Pokemon.
No, that one.
Yeah, every single time I come into a chat where I haven't seen like anybody in for a while, it's like I just come in and throw a Pokeball at the entire chat. Just be like, "Come here! What do you got to
Ooh,
get in there somehow?"
ow. You're so much better with your hammer.
Thank you.
Hammer time.
Wow! Out
As he
of
falls to
context,
his
that was
death.
so rude.
All right. So, real quick.
The better my hammer than my balls.
So real
Hello.
quick, before we start the next match, I'm going to officially kick off the show for those who are coming in now to watch. And so, with that, I'm going to play our intro, jump into it, and we will officially start the show. Cool, cool?
Yeah.
All right. So with that, let's see. Close this out, and we'll do.
This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the show. And yes, we are live now. So that's cool. Hando caught it in the Twitch stream as he posted it and jumped in. We had under our stats, the views was originally 1,337, and so as he joined, we had leap views.
Yay!
So, thanks for pointing that out, Hando. But hey, everybody, welcome to the show. So you're listening live at 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT. We've been going on for a little bit now because we didn't have a musical pre-show today. Instead, we just kind of started kicking in to talk and play some games and get together to hopefully have a celebration today because it is officially our 400th episode of Show X. So, woo! In fact, I could do a quick one for that and do...
Objective complete.
Could someone check the door? And I believe it's probably my uncle and aunt, but we will see.
Hear that?
So 400 episodes, and you still have the same intro.
So about that.
No, we don't. We used to have a different intro than
That
this.
is true. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
wait. Do I have? I was gonna say, can I? I didn't bring it in as any of the drop-ins. I was starting to reload drop-ins on the Stream Deck because after having issues where I'd had for the last, like I said, last week and reinstalling Windows and everything like that, I had an opportunity to refresh the entire process and introduction of what it is to do all the automation for everything on the show. And so I've put in new buttons and things like that, and some things for those who, as a throwback and such to people that have been around for some time, maybe prior to Show X, because for those who remember, oh, hey, look. Let's see. Let me switch how the view goes. Boom. Like that. And then go like doot. Let's see. Alright, so, and that way it'll jump between whoever's talking on the stream on your guys' side. But for those who've paid attention for some time, they know that Show X was not always Show X, and it is a derivative of what we were doing prior, where it came in from originally being an offshoot from when on WoW Radio we had done Octel and Hordak vs. the World, and we had done The World Strikes Back, which were both Ken and the show I was part of. So Ken's own show and the show I was part of with our friends Todd and Kyle, Octel and Hordak. And so we had done some things. You're killing me. Cup check. Settle down. I see you moving all over the place. There you go. Good, man. All right.
Shall I go ahead and close the door?
It will get warmer in here if you close the door. That is for our own benefit.
Okay.
So, but as we had started out things from there and continued on the show when we created VTW Productions and such, let's see. We created our own podcast and continued on, and then started out. And originally it was just Octail and Ken that started things out with Show X. There was some drop over time there where I wasn't sure what the status of things were after Hordak had moved out and about. And so with that, he jumped in. You guys started things out, and I forget which episode officially I came back. Because
it was like 7 or something. It wasn't too far in.
No, it wasn't that far in, but it was somewhere in that I came back. And let's see. So another one to Hando, or the one I had before? Okay, so I can do that for you. Oh, did I maybe or maybe not make that one for you, Hando? As I was saying, as I was starting to manipulate everything and try to get more and more stuff together, I was re-adding in different drop-ins. Actually, Hando, I did play it before, the one that you had made from my voice, I'm assuming. I did play it either last week or the week before, and so I have it, but I haven't added it to the list of what's currently in the Stream Deck. Instead, I have ones like I was going to play for you guys. If you go back in the day, things like... Oh
my god. Why?
Some old classics.
Wow.
That's old school.
That drop in.
Uh-huh.
Good grief, that's old.
The 3 billion variations of it.
Well, and I actually made a separate directory for all of the No and old like attacks from the Octon Hordak days, the ONH days. Although I don't have all of them in there because some of them I feel like are really belong to Todd and the stuff he's done.
Oh yeah. But I remember when I first started hosting The World Strikes Back in like I don't want to think like 2007 or something. I went to the Audio's FTP server because I finally got access and I had to look around all these audio files that were used by the various shows. And I remember opening one called No Attack, and it was like 47 files of variations of that one drop-in. I was like, what the hell?
Wait. You mean things like the views? No. Again, some classics, I say. And actually, because I played one at the beginning, and this is the one that I think was the pivotal, or the one that was probably most, I at least associated with our stream and with our show, that, made shirts for it, things like that, became something that on ONH we would actually play for everyone else. And so this is the one that I played it earlier for both Beck and John, and they were like, what? But the original one that I think really set it off for us was
LMFAO noob with 27 exclamation points in the back of it. That's right. That's how smart I am.
Like I said, that being probably, I argue, or I always think to being one of the ones that just like set it up for me as one of the best ones we had done.
Oh God, can you send me that last one?
So we have some classics. In fact, it's funny because I can open up my software to make and add and do things, and I could probably like continue to grab more of them and throw them in there. As like I said, I was still working on which other ones I had in the list, and it's beautiful that I have the software where I can just kind of grab it and say, oh, what else is in here? I haven't played this one yet. Oh, that's the thing. I was also trying to preview them, so I knew what to label them. But let's see. I might do one off the fly where I haven't actually previewed it at all.
Hopefully it's PG-13.
All of them were.
Okay.
And so this is good. But then I'll have to like relabel what this one is. So this one I have no idea. This was originally labeled as just Wiggly No Attack, and so this is the number one. So this should be the base one.
No.
Hey.
Yeah.
Old school.
So
that was what, like 10 years ago?
Well, so that
more than that.
That
man.
would have come when we were originally broadcasting back in. Well, so from now it would have been 11 to 12 years ago, essentially, when we were still doing those and dropping in some of those drop-ins and things like that. So old school like that. And yeah, we just had so many. It was so good. Yep.
Oh.
And that's the thing, right? They're classic. But no, as you were saying, Ken, that's actually a wonderful story as you talked about when you first got into things, because we have definitely changed over the years and stuff like that from the previous broadcasting we had done, where it was all done through different software because we started with audio. Back in the day, and even back in Show X's beginning, it was all audio. And we were doing things using Sam Broadcaster. We have so many old stories about Sam. Good, bad, and ugly. You're right.
Don't know that one.
Yeah, most of them involve us crying, which is...
Yeah, no, there were a lot
How many times in a one-show period did it break on you?
So
what's the record for Sam?
The problem was Sam Broadcaster was built to be this kind of big audio... can multiplex, send stuff everywhere kind of software, as well as to be able to it allowed you to do things like drop-ins and stuff. It was meant around the old-fashioned radio DJ type of software, and it is really good for that. The challenge was it's so proprietary in its own thing that we were fighting with it constantly. And so every time there'd be an update or we do something a little different, it would break it and thus break the show. And things like that, just so bad. And there were so many times that we had to completely reinstall things. And other problems with Sam is that because we had gotten a license for it and had to pay for it, to keep it honest, they as a... because I forget the name of the company behind Sam, but they would always have to re-up the license every like 3 to 6 months.
Huh.
And the challenge was that meant everybody who had a broadcast software that was doing something to send out to our Shoutcast servers had to get updated license. And so I had this whole database I had to maintain of everybody's license key.
Wow.
And then we'd have to preemptively send out emails to every show like a week or two before they would expire, where I'd have to set up basically right before or right after their last episode for the week prior, I would have to go re-up their license and send it to them in emails to say update your software with the new license so that they could keep broadcasting. Otherwise,
and
we
the
had
thing is, most of us didn't check our emails until the show. So, we'd be beginning broadcasting, we'd be like, all right, time to open up. And in the background, Sam would, it would work. It would still broadcast live, and it would seem to be working fine until a couple minutes in. You take the reins again, Wayne. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh, no, you're right. No, go ahead. You're right. Continue with that.
Then a couple minutes in, you're sitting there doing the show, you've done the intro, you start going, hey, everybody, welcome to the show, really excited to do our show this week. And then it says something along the lines of, please update your Sam Broadcaster with your license registration. This can be done under the help menu. Go down to registration and support, and then enter your 27-digit key. And you can't stop this audio. It plays over whatever you're doing, whether it was your microphone, whether it was background music. This would play instead of all of that to all of your listeners. So everybody would be like, who's this loser who doesn't play all this?
It was so frustrating because it would just come in there. And it was their ad saying, hey, you'll give you all the functionality, but you're going to have to, acknowledge or deal with this every however many minutes while you're broadcasting until it happened. It was just like, oh, this hurts. It hurts. Why are we doing this? Oh,
Never mind the fact that the software looked like it was made, and to be fair, it was actually made for Windows XP. It was glitchy as heck. If you tried to set up, if you wanted to set up, for example, the ability to stream wasn't so bad, but you had to set up the ability to stream on the various different wavelengths, effectively, like different hertz rates, and then you had to put in individual passwords for each one, and then if you wanted to get the stats of the number of listeners, you'd have a different password and a different address that you had to put in, and so on and so on and so on, and it was just such a pain. Oh, man.
Well, so it's interesting because the old way we used to do this when it was audio, which was nice because for a lot of our listeners, it was a way to give you low bandwidth options, and so that people who are listening to us on mobile devices or people that were listening to us when they when they were doing on our website, right? We'd have it direct stream on our website on VTW Productions, and on that we would be able to go, and depending on your bandwidth, you could choose a high quality stream or a low quality. And the low quality, gosh, we were running like 56K, like kilohertz per second. Something which is very low MP3 quality, right? And the high one, I think we're doing 128 just for audio, because it's all you really need for talk. Although we had played with things like running 198 or 192 kilobit per second all the way up to 320, like the different audio quality ones. And a lot of people were giving us feedback as to whether that really made a difference. And so, as Ken's saying, there were so many little challenges for just making the show work each week that when it was running, it was great. You just hit the buttons, it all did well. But whenever it broke, it was such a mess to try to get things back together.
And it was obvious to everybody who was listening that there was an error, because either the stream would stutter horrendously, or your audio files would. Oh, that's the other thing. If you didn't have your queue of audio lined up for the next few hours, or you didn't have your or it was missing a file or something like that, it would start shuffling your entire media library on your computer. So you'd end up just you'd be sitting there doing your show, then suddenly Shania Twain's "Man, I Feel Like a Woman" comes on, which not only is fantastic song. It's a fantastic song. Not only that,
I like me some Shania.
It's a copyright issue, right? We don't have the rights to play that on
air.
Exactly. So you're stop, don't do that. I didn't tell you to do that.
No,
you're
right.
shouting loud enough to be over it. You'd be like,
no,
every time.
Well, that was the thing, right? We were constantly having to deal with managing these cues for the audio and such on our software while getting ready for the music breaks and things like that, and just all these pieces we were having to do. And back in the day, we chose to use bed music, essentially, to always keep something in the background. Thus, whenever you had a moment pause in what you were talking about, and actually, it's an old radio trick where it somewhat hide any of the lower quality things you might be doing, especially when using various online services to be able to talk back and forth, because that's the other thing, right? We have gone through so many in the things back and forth that would go on, and
We tried Discord, we tried Ventrilo, we tried Skype, we tried other direct VoIP services available, we tried Google Hangouts, we've tried everything, right?
Yeah, we went through so many. It's just like in the actual, what was it? After when we'd game and stuff, when we would use things like Ventrilo and TeamSpeak and
Ventrilo.
Mumble and all of those kind of servers. There's so many things we've gone through over time that have been just ways we've learned as we've gone to improve the show and do things, right? So and that's the thing, right? You learn and grow as you go with anything you're doing. And we've gone through so many iterations. And I try and remember when it was we finally made the decision to go video, because that was us having to step over into a whole new way of looking at how to do the show. And it was something that we hadn't done before, and none of our shows were at the time. When we were still doing multiple broadcasts and such, with all the different shows, everyone was doing audio. And some people are doing pre-recorded. We really appreciate the live show. We think it's just as better banter back and forth and conversational versus having something scripted or anything like that. And so for us, that's always been our big shtick. And it seems like those of you who've tuned in over the years have really appreciated that. And so we continue to try so. So going to video was a big change.
Did you do YouTube right away, or was it something before that?
Was there something, Ken, that we started with that was other than YouTube? Because I think YouTube was the primary place we were starting with.
Well, for video, yeah. I mean, audio-wise, we just put everything on VTW as like on our own server that people could connect to and download from. But we had an RSS feed, which was like a little fancy XML file,
yes,
which you could send to iTunes, which you could send to Spotify and wherever else. And it meant that whenever people would subscribe to your podcast, they get automatic downloads so long as you updated that crappy XML file, which is another thing that's thankfully pretty much dead, because that was a goddamn pain in the ass.
And I tried to bring it back slightly. In fact, I still do record the shows as an audio MP3, but I haven't really got much response from anybody saying they want to download the audio ones, because all of our shows right now are being archived on YouTube. And we had to start with YouTube as well, because now that we're doing it through Twitch, back in the day when we started going video, Twitch didn't allow for just talk shows to be on Twitch. It was still strictly game streams. And that was part of the reason we started on YouTube. And then eventually we switched over to Twitch and it was funny because I had sent several streams to Twitch on occasion and kept getting in trouble because they weren't directly game related. I had streamed some content from various conventions and things like that, and just different coverage, and they really did not appreciate that and kept basically banning my account. And so finally, and I swear there was one time I did that, and then the next week or so, one of the big sponsored streams out there covered a conference or a convention, and I was like, hey, I just got in trouble for doing that. What the heck? But in that time frame when they picked up and then let us come over to Twitch, as well as the fact that we were able to use software that allows us to stream out to multiple services, so you can actually catch us on Twitch, live, YouTube, and I believe Mixer as well is where you can find us live. So you can check us out on any of those services. Although we do look at the various channels. We don't stream all those for our chat. We just do it off Twitch. So if you want to play along live, you come to Twitch. And so yes. All right. So that's kind of what got us to here, as well as we put to bed the bed music because we realized we could just talk, and people seem to be fine with that. Although I know there's some people out there who miss it because we had some wonderful various nostalgia for the different music we used, where people just, you knew what section we were in because of what background music we were playing, things like that. And so all of that. But it's been a long journey. It's been a fun one to come up here. We've had some great guests over the years, including both you guys.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us at different times.
Thank you for having us. Always fun.
No, and that's why I say it's also great that you're now coming back 200 episodes later. Although it's not like we haven't had you for 200 episodes.
Right.
We've had you both, in between, as well as, Ken and I are on here every week, but having you, Cupcheck, join us as well, we appreciate. And we are opening it up for anyone else who's out there who wants to jump in and chat with us, who've got some stories or history or things about the show and what it means to you and why you join us each week. We'd love to hear from you on those ones. And hey, yes, Copy and Hando are mods in the IRC or the Twitch chat. Feel free to do your modding duties as you feel appropriate. That's why we have those of you we trust. And so do your bits.
We appreciate that, guys. Appreciate the efforts to try and mediate first. I saw that. That was very good.
So you don't trust me. I see how that is.
I looked through I looked through the chat history there, and I saw that the guy was saying okay stuff, and I went up till he started talking about the hot one, and I was like, no, none of that. Get.
What makes it really hilarious about the whole thing was that I wish the bald guy would talk more, and I'm like, hey,
which one?
There's
right.
It's like, I'm like, do you know what you're asking?
That's one of the things I don't like about Twitch,
I was mostly offended that I was not the one referred to as the hot one personally. That's why I was offended at.
But no,
You're
that's
hot, not hard.
As soon as we started, we used to live stream our Minecraft sessions, and immediately day one we had people doing that kind of worse than that even.
Oh no, I mean there's always people who come in, and we know that because it's funny, right? One of the things about our channel, we've been doing this show for years, and it's never been with the goal of trying to be some massive, popular, playing to the masses kind of show. It's been something that's just been for our tight-knit group of friends and the people who are interested in what we're doing. And so with that, I don't feel the pressure to play to those people who want attention, as such. And I feel like even though we're not out there advertising and trying to, I don't know, sell our souls or something to make ourselves get more views, more listeners, I feel like we've been consistent with our content.
Yeah.
And we've done some great things about, different. We've had guests come in. Man, we've had some great guests, and that's the funny part, right? For as focused and small a show as we've had such great geek guests, especially musicians that we've had, where love.
Oh yeah.
Right. The fact that we've had Molly Lewis on the show more than once, and she was so much fun, and yet such a train wreck every time we hosted her. Where it was the show blew up.
Yeah, we felt really bad about that. Yeah, we were just like, oh hey, we haven't really planned anything. Do you just want to hang out? And it was fine.
It wasn't even that. We essentially had technical issues every time. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
to be fair, those were the days when we were using Sam and such as well.
Oh God, it was. It would be so much cleaner now. I need to talk to you. But, we've had our author friends on the show. Both Jon and Beck have been on multiple times talking about their works and shows. We've had, what was it? Paul and Storm came on, essentially, right?
Oh, yeah.
That was one of our big shows and such. We also...
You've had some kick-ass cosplayers on here.
Oh, cosplay-wise, yeah. Like, all of my local friends and stuff like that, cosplay friends. In fact, the real fun thing about that is even then, we've had people ask to be back on the show. And one of the things I'd love to hear from people out there, if there's anyone you'd like us to reach out to. Because I've had, what was it? The gentleman that we had, and I'd have to look in our notes to see his name again, but that did the webcomic and such. I remember at one point he emailed us back. He's like, hey, have you needed to have us back on?
Yeah, we actually had a couple of webcomic artists on. I've got them stored in my favorites because I like to go back to their websites occasionally.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
The prequel comics guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy who did the prequel comic.
Yeah.
Which was based on the idea of basically a Khajiit from Oblivion or Morrowind. Was basically has this huge 8 years of comics that are released at least every week. And I used to follow this comic all the time, avidly. And I randomly sent the person an email, and they said they'd be happy to pop on. And it was just really surreal to have this person who, it was the same each time, right? Everybody we invite on the show is somebody we personally loved due to their geekery and other stuff that they've done that kind of made them stand out in the crowd, right? And it was just cool to have them on. Same with Paul and Storm, same with Brad from Brad Sucks.
Yeah.
That was crazy
Brew
as
Guy.
well.
We had Brew Guy come on.
Oh yeah, Brew Guy. Yeah.
Again, and so some of this
we also
was...
had Lily, of course. Lily.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right? We've even... so many good guests we've had.
TV star, yeah.
Yeah, so we've had people very... So Lily R.E. Lily that did the... It was the TBS show.
King of the Nerds.
Yeah, King of the Nerds on TBS. They had 3 seasons of it as a game show that was essentially different levels of nerd, different walks of life, and she was one of the cosplayers that went on it from Colorado. And so and I had known her originally from when I did my...
I remember that show.
Yeah, when I did my Shepherd book cosplay, and she and her group did an entire female group of the Firefly cast, essentially, and they didn't have a book. So when they found me, they were like, hey, would you take some pictures with me? It's like, absolutely. And that was one of those great stories where I got a picture with them. It got tweeted out amongst the world, and Nathan Fillion retweeted back to it, responded to it, saying, oh, man, I'd fly with that crew. Right, essentially. So that was our little bit of geek fun and nerddom that came out of that. And then she went on to join into this show and got to interact with her and interview her a couple times about what it was like being on the show and her cosplay life, things like that. And that's a kind of a throw out to all of you guys who are listeners and enjoy the show. Do you like that? Because I've seen that I really enjoy having guests. We always make it just very conversational. I will freely admit that I'm probably one of the worst hosts when it comes to traditional interviews. Because
it's the thing. I mean, like, it's a 2-hour show. I mean, like, most interviews that you see online or on TV, they're usually like 5 minutes tops, and they have like top 10 questions with a backup 30. If we had 100 questions lined up, it wouldn't be enough to fill 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you have to fill it with general conversation, and it sometimes feels a bit, you almost feel like you're doing them a disfavor by not having this lined up set of questions. You don't feel like a TV presenter, but you sort of think about it, and it's fun to actually talk to them as a real person and get to know who they are.
Yeah,
in a relaxed, fun environment and chill out.
Well, and that's part of
a lot of these people have had many interviews in the past. They're probably quite happy to have one that isn't a stressful thing.
Isn't just like get to the subject, make sure you advertise your thing and do the part, right? The regular media junkets. Well, and so that's an opportunity for me to ask that question actually to both you guys, both Jon and Beck here, being guests that you've been on the show a couple times now. But how have you enjoyed or felt like, or just the process of how our show's been for you, being guests? Because I've never really interviewed anybody about what they thought of it. I've had people come back and say I've always heard people, thankfully, said they enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah.
In general, they had a good time and it was fun. But I haven't really thought, like, the pressure... Because a lot of the people we've brought on, especially local cosplayers or talent that's still trying to get noticed and such more, you haven't had an opportunity to do as many interviews, let alone live broadcasts where you're talking to however many people will come in and knowing that it's going to be live on the internet forever. The pressure of that. But how does it feel to come onto a show like this? Because I know a lot of people, when they first come, there's a little bit of, like, worry or concern.
A little, yeah. I was, like, anxious the first time because I've never done anything like this. So I was like, I don't know what to expect. But after that first time, it's like, so relaxed. Yeah. It's so easy.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. It's
nice.
It's back and forth conversation. I mean, yeah, we come on most of the times to, get our stuff out in front of the camera. But
it's appropriate to hawk your wares.
But then the conversation just goes to whatever, and that's fun and enjoyable. Speaking of, Beck has things she wants to show later.
Uh-oh.
She brought some of her cool new stuff.
Nice.
But anyway,
hey, like I said, I support. I like to support people in that as well. But and that's the thing I threw out there just to generally the audience to see, is that something you enjoy? Because I feel like it's nice to have just a conversation, and we always like to jump onto something about people's gaming habits or general geekdom, because I feel like it's one thing to just focus on whatever new project someone's doing. But I think it's also really fun to hear a little bit more about who they are as a people. And for us, I think our focus has always been geekdom.
Yeah.
I'm a big advocate of hearing about people's different interests and what they're doing and the things like that. As a fan,
it's probably because there's something of a culture where, well, actually, it has changed nowadays, where geek culture is kind of cool now, right? Like liking Minecraft is no longer like a niche thing. It's now something every parent is aware of because their kids all play it, right? Like geekdom and Avengers, superhero films and such, are no longer this nerdy thing that some people are into. It's the forefront of the cinema universe, right? Like everybody who goes to the cinema will watch Avengers. So that has changed somewhat, but still, I think having a space that people can come in and do an interview and hang out with us and talk about their hobbies that are maybe not so mainstream, like cosplay and their art and whatever it may be. They can come in and have a place where they can really say, like, oh, I'm really excited about this. And we can say, that's awesome. We're excited too. Let's talk about it. It's like a safe space for nerdiness here.
Which I am totally down with. And that's, again, it goes into a little bit of the... And this will be a question to you, Cupcheck. Do you enjoy those kind of things? Since you're on air with us, get your response. Is this that kind of program, that kind of interaction with some of the people that we bring on, is that kind of thing that you enjoyed listening to, or you're just like, nope, it's a waste of time, do something else?
Well, the idea of having guests on the show is like I enjoy it, but it's like I'm trying to find the right words. The idea that it's not the same cookie cutter interview when I go and find the same person elsewhere. Like I remember hearing about Jovenshire from King of the Nerds. he was doing the same cookie cutter press junkets every single time, asking them the same questions. And it's like when y'all do it, it's like y'all take like Ken was saying earlier. It's like y'all separate yourself from every other stereotypical interview, asking the same questions over and over again. And that's one of the reasons why I like it. Another thing is that it also takes a different perspective. Like the link that I put in Discord of a cosplayer is like you were talking about bringing in the cosplayer from King of the Nerds. It's always awesome to actually hear it from a different point of view, because yes, you could sit there and drool over cosplay and and stare at this beautiful work of art, but until you actually talk to the person creating it. And that's one of the reasons why I like the show in general and catch it when I can, because yes, train wrecks happen, Sam Broadcaster breaks, but for 400 episodes, you guys have created art for the sake of art, and we become good gaming buddies throughout the course of 400 plus Sunday afternoons. And if it wasn't for the stuff that brought me here, I probably wouldn't have stuck around for as long as I have. So
cool, good point.
Yeah, I appreciate hearing that. And that is something else I really appreciate about our community, and the fact that it is as small as it has been, is that we kind of know everybody who participates. And that's why equally when you have someone jump into a chat and you look at them and like everyone in the chat looks at them like, who are you?
Who are you? What brought you here?
That's why we identify spammers so quickly. We don't recognize your name.
Well, that or the things you say where obviously this is your first time. You don't understand what we're about. Yeah, and it's funny, right? Because I know that Ken and I have talked about before, but we don't believe that we try not to pander to anybody. That we are just doing what we enjoy. That I see, and thankfully I'm not envious of it, because I've got a day job, thank you, and it does well enough that I'm okay not trying to turn this into something that's like lining my pockets. We've always talked about this as something we do as a labor of love, and just because we know that you fans out there who listen enjoy it, and so we take those, most of that effort and cost on ourselves, minus the thank you for everyone who Patreons us, because it does help us pay the bills, and we try to keep them as minimal as possible, so that our bills are like something every once or 2 years that we have to pay a sum for. So we appreciate the support.
Absolutely. But we do have this huge list that we're actually talking about having to revisit again soon, of potential improvements and things we could redo and things we could bring back and new ideas we want to bring to the show. And it's all stuff that's been sitting on, not even the back burner. It's been sitting off the stove for a while. But with my, this is one of the things I want to talk about the show as well. Slight side note, I handed in my thesis this week for my PhD.
Yay!
So with all this unlocked free time that I suddenly have, we can probably put a bit more time into the show. And so yeah, we're going to probably open up that derelict, locked away, dusty envelope full of potential ideas and see what we can do. Maybe send out a couple of emails to people and actually ask them if they're interested in doing some interviews with us and such. So yeah, this is not the show that in the current format that'll be forever. We do want to refresh things. We do want to bring in new audio, new video. We do want to try shaking the segments around and see what happens, see what fits. We want to try bringing on different people and see how that goes. We want to try different formats, maybe different times of the show. Because another reason for that is another not announcement.
Nothing has been formalized yet. We've had like little nebulous discussions.
Yes,
Ken's leaving the show. That's the announcement.
Well, no.
Forever.
Yeah, no, just joking.
No. So I've been applying for jobs for months. But when I was in Prague 3 weeks ago or so, I went to this job workshop and talked to a few people there. Quite a lot of Americans were there. And I sent off a few applications. Now, keep in mind, I've sent off probably about 1,000 applications in the past year to various jobs and universities around the world. but because I met them in person, suddenly like they notice. That it's not just another email in your inbox.
Oh, well,
it's
yeah.
a real person, right?
Knowing people is huge.
Yeah, so I applied for 3 jobs due to that conference, that workshop. One was based in Austria, and I haven't heard anything back, but they started following me on Twitter, which I think is indicative, which is a bit weird, actually. Kind of, spine sense tingling. Did I need to delete anything? Did I say anything weird?
Going back to your history.
And the other 2 universities I applied to, I'm not going to say which ones, but they're both based in the U.S. One is based in Michigan, and one is based in Alabama. And both have asked me to go in for an interview. Well, not go in, but a Skype interview.
As long as they pay for the airfare.
Right? I had one interview already, and it went very well. I think they're very interested. There's a couple of red tape things that I'm not going to go into the gory details about, but I'd say at this stage is looking likely. The other one is still very preliminary. I've not had the interview yet, so we don't know how that'll go. But considering that's 2 positions, they're both interviewing me for positions in the US, I'd say there's a good chance that in the next, hopefully, if the first one goes through, it's probably going to be October time frame I'd be moving over. Otherwise, it might be later. But either which way, Ken and I have discussed it, and I think I'm going to be moving over to the US. So with the show in mind, show times might be something that we're not saying they will, but they might change because we're going to be close to the same time zone for once, and not just a fleeting visit, right?
So you say this, Ken. Actually, I think show time frames will stay almost the same. The difference is you might be able to play a game past the show,
right?
Instead of just.
So we'll see, or maybe we'll change the format of the show. Maybe we'll do some more gaming involved in it because we've done that a little bit today, and it's been quite fun. But yeah, we'll see what happens. My point is the future is unknown. There's more free time on our plates, and there's big changes in terms of availability. So who knows what could happen in the coming months. Keep your eyes peeled and stay excited because we are.
Absolutely. So no, and we'll see how it goes. But actually, that's one of those things with that list that we do have. It'll be interesting because we have lots of ideas of how we'd like to keep the show fresh. The joke, or kind of, I think it was you, Cupcheck, that said at the beginning, or part of it with the, we've had this intro for a bit. Is we are not against, we've looked at the opportunities we may have to change up some of the look and feel of the show as well and try to get some updates as we continue forward past 400 episodes. Things that might, keep everyone more entertained. I've always asked it out there basically saying, what would you like to see more of on the show? Because we can make more efforts for that. We know it's wonderful that you guys get to hear about what we've been doing every week. As I jokingly, somewhat, say to whenever anybody comments or asks questions, when I say, oh yeah, I've got a podcast I do every week. Like, oh really, what's it about? I've always described Show X as, oh, it's the most narcissistic thing out there. It's basically just my friend Ken and I talking about ourselves for 2 hours.
That's pretty accurate.
That's just about
it.
So, every once in a while we take a moment to look at some news that might have happened in the last week that we find interesting that we can share, while desperately trying not to turn it back into, although we love it, your opinion is wrong by going into too deep of political subjects and things like that, even though, gosh, we love it.
Oh my god, they banned video game for violence reasons because there's too many guns in it. Guns, you say?
Yeah, right? Or like the 2 recent mass shootings that the U.S. has had in 2 different areas. That's like,
oh, Jesus,
is it 3 now?
Yeah.
Is it 3 now in the most recent? It depends on time range.
There's another one in Ohio that started 2 hours ago.
Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso are the most recent, or something like that.
I saw another one a couple hours ago, but I could be wrong.
But like I said, that we're not trying to get the show into anymore,
as much
as we enjoy doing so.
Well, the non-political "you're wrong, I'm right" conversations that I've heard in the past was just like comedic gold. Like I could. During some points, it's like I couldn't stop laughing, but the best part about it is that it's like oh, me and my buddy Ken talk about ourselves for 2 hours, and I'm like, so the chat's chopped liver.
So, like I said, I jokingly say that because if I were to try to characterize the entire show, what we mostly do, we bring you up on what we've been doing with Dysfunctional Deviations and with our Geek Cred, although we'd love to include everyone in that Geek Cred, so send us emails each week to keep us updated on what you've been doing. But at the same time, the advantage of us doing this live is that we're able to interact with you guys in chat and anyone who wants to join in and kind of continue the conversation. We love it, right? And so it isn't just that it's Ken and I. It is our community, and it's all of us together sharing in what it is that we enjoy each week. Because we've talked about it. It's very much just like friends hanging out every week. Mm-hmm. It just happens to be that Ken and I, for the most part, have the mics. And I've heard it described by others that it is like sitting just beside some of your friends who are having that conversation that you would otherwise want to have yourself. And so in those cases, you can hear what they're saying, what Ken and I are talking about, and be like, yeah, and have your kind of thoughts on the same thing. And so because we've known each other now for years, both virtually, in some cases we've met each other in person, which has been lovely, it's being able to interact back and forth, things like that. And so, yes. And then, as Copy says, and really shout out to you, Copy, because you have been one of the supporters of the show longer than probably anybody out there, because you followed us both from our previous shows. And you have done so many things for us. And so many thanks to you. In fact, I'll give you this one, Copy, because you've been such a supporter.
Oh, you stud!
One of the feedbacks we've always gotten on the show is more drop-ins. And because that was something that was Octail's shtick. He loved, and he had a drop-in for everything. Absolutely every detail and thing. And I've gone through and some of them saying like, yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, that was good for that. So it's nice having something a little, what do you say, a third-person perspective or a way to express our feelings on the show. So that one's for you, Copy. But yeah, no, it is more than just Ken and I. It is a community, and we appreciate you guys for it. And in speaking of which, as we're talking about the nostalgia of things, I have to give shout out to our friend Hando, because he did take a moment to write us in an email as we ask. And actually, Ken, do you have it up? Would you like to read this one?
I do have it up, but no, go ahead, sir. It's well, right?
Okay. So, this one coming in with the subject of Happy 400th. And he goes on to say, hey, Professor X and Wolverine. Yeah, I can take those.
Which one's which?
Guys, I just wanted to say...
Who, though?
Right? Yeah, no, I'd leave that to everyone's imagination.
Am I the bald one? That makes sense.
I was going to say,
feel free to vote. Wait, because I'm the old one? How's that work?
No, because you've got the hair, including the facial hair.
Wolverine's older than most all the others throughout. He just maintains a youthful appearance. Darn healing factor. Guys, I just wanted to say thanks so much for the past 400 shows. Throughout these 8-ish years, I have many times found myself being the most knowledgeable person in the room when it came to gaming info and news, as well as general geekdom. I think my favorite era was 2014 when you guys were getting the many high-profile guests that you had. You know, before cosplay and getting your PhD became the new hotness. ShowX is one of those little gems on the internet. The sound quality, the segments, and general enthusiasm are always the best part of my Sunday. Not only a great show, but a place where I found great friends. I'm always glad to be helping hand with gear questions and general listener support. Rock on, you guys. Your pal, Hando. Thank you very much, Hando. I appreciate that. And it's funny because we do interact and reach out to our community a lot. And Hando is our sound engineer tech out in Boston, right? And I had the beautiful opportunity last time I was out there for Anime Boston to actually meet up, and he took me around the town and saw a few things, grabbed something to eat, got to check out some neat locations there. And just generally where it's funny, because we've seen each other virtually, and this has happened so many times, when actually in person with somebody, making it that much more real is its own way a little surreal, but so cool. I think, Ken, we talk about that from when I first flew out to Florida to see you. And just that we talked about multiple times. The first time because it was for Ken's wedding, and I showed up and knocked on the door basically and opened it up, and we saw each other and we knew it was us. But
but
at the same time there was kind of this level of like, but you're here, and like for me, right? It's Ken, so I'm looking up at this young buck, this tall young Scottish man.
Wait, how tall are you?
I'm 6'3".
Holy cow!
No, I did not think. I never thought that.
You're as tall as my brothers.
So that's one of those fun things, right? When you don't realize this, and then you meet a person in person, that all of a sudden it's like, huh, hello there. and Ken and I talked about how even though we had seen each other and interacted, it was still a little bit of a disconnect until we sat there and started talking. And once we started talking and the voice, and I think, Ken, you had mentioned you'd like turn away from me and listen. To first,
that was exactly what I did. Yeah, because I didn't really believe it was you at the start.
And then
actually to hear your voice and to recognize it as part of your body, right? Like that, and then I realized it was you.
Yes.
So for a split second, you thought you brought in a complete stranger into your house.
Could have.
No, okay.
But yeah, no. It's
the first time I actually met Wayne was when, like, in person. He was one of the groomsmen for my wedding, and it was a strange experience. You know, never met this guy before, and he's now in my wedding as one of the members of the bridal party.
Nice. Which was entertaining, right? Because that came from we had been doing broadcasts together for so long that we had made the comment. In general, it was kind of just a sense of if you're ever close, we'll make an effort to maybe say hey. And it was such a big event where Ken and Kitten Features were getting together in Florida after having lived in Scotland this whole time and interacting there for their wedding that I was like, well, that's a much easier trip for me to manage than heading to Scotland. Yeah, I'll go do that. And so flew in, managed myself over there, got a place that was close by, and, and the best part of that story, for those who remember, is I went to the address I had originally seen, or whatever the room number was, but it wasn't Ken's room. It was the room or suite, essentially, of this big apartment type of, or condo type of rental that the parents were staying in. And so I showed up at the door, knocked on it, and was like, hey, I'm here to meet, Ken. And I believe it was your father, Ken, that opened the door. And
oh, right.
So then it's, I opened the door to the most manly of Scottishmen you'll ever run into, Malcolm. And he's sitting there looking at me like, oh, hey, so are you here to fix the thing? I was like, huh? Apparently they were having an issue with something in the plumbing or whatever it was, and they had talked to the complex asking for help. And so I had shown up, and they were just like, hey, yeah, so thought I was the guy from the complex to help things. I was like, no, I'm actually looking for Ken. I'm his friend Wayne. And they're like, oh, no, sorry. And basically said that, this other place, the complex over or two or whatever, was where they were, and that's when I then made my way, knocked on the door and all that. Which was...
And that was surreal as well.
Yeah.
As soon as you informed them of who you were brought into the fold as one of the family because, hey, like I've said, every time I visit my gran, she doesn't ask me anything else. She asks me my wife, and before she asks me the dogs or my career or anything like that, she's like, "How's Wayne?"
Yeah, I was very...
Love you.
Well, it was fortunate, right? Because I got to play the anchor in that whole event just because I had been around enough weddings, having done photography and helped my ex actually plan a couple and things like that. So I knew the in and the outs, and everyone else had traveled into a location they were unfamiliar with, and having to get those last minute details done to do the wedding. And because I wasn't part of anything other than kind of like the last groomsman on the end, meaning I wasn't in any official capacity, I was able to make do and help everybody. I had a rental car, and I was able to say, hey, let's go get like the official paperwork that's needed downtown to make this legal. That could be a thing.
That's important.
Got to introduce Ken. Got to introduce Ken to what, your first tacos officially?
Oh my!
Yes, the first. Oh my god, so good. I've always loved Mexican food, but Scottish Mexican food isn't really Mexican food.
Oh no! So everyone I know who comes over from like Australia, from the UK, stuff like that, the one thing they say they miss from here is Mexican food, because around the world Mexican food is not real. It's like when I went to Scotland and tried to have American-style wings. That was a sad moment. And so there's just certain spices and things that are unique to the U.S. And so, it was right after and the reason I remember is on that same trip where Kitten Features, you and I, had gone to go get the paperwork coming back, and we needed to grab something to eat, because it was both that, and I think I also got you to try horchata for the first time.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And that was the fun part, right? Going from a virtual experience to real life and continuing basically friendship, where we were already friends online because we share, I jokingly say, but the show is an opportunity for Ken and I to catch up each week on what our lives have been up to and what we've been doing. We talk a little bit right before the show about some of like the more core things to us, little life changes and issues and such. And then when the show comes on, we start talking about our geek and gaming and all that of what we've been doing, with a little bit of like the kind of non-traditional geek, watching our shows and movies and things like that. That hopefully you guys appreciate as well. So yeah. But,
so where is my question? Where did you take him to get his first tacos?
So it was a place that was completely had no idea, right? Because it was Florida, and I don't know the area much, but I am one of those people who actually appreciates and believes in some of the reviews that are left on things like Yelp and such, or at least I'll pay attention to them. And oh God, why, Ken? And
yeah, what the heck?
Haggis tacos.
Well, so we've had each other's introductions, because then the year after, when I went to Scotland to go participate in Ken's wedding reception with his family all locally, I got to experience
a year later
all of the Scottish things, which I will say I actually quite like haggis, but there's different types.
Awesome, yeah.
Well, there's different types, right? Because the haggis that your mother-in-law cooked the day after Christmas when everyone was down was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Whereas the haggis that we got, and I forget the name of the shop that is kind of the chain that we went to, where everything's fried and looks the same.
That could be anywhere. I don't know.
Well, do you remember there? It's like on every corner they have. You just walk. It's like, oh yeah, if you're gonna get it, on the street real quick.
Oh, Greg's.
Yeah, at Greg's.
At Greg's. Yeah.
See,
it's a British thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because we walked in because they had I say they all look the same because they were like tubes of fried batter around some different filling, and so from the outside they looked the exact same. And I remember they had, what was it, white pudding, black pudding, haggis, and stuff like that in various rows. Because I remember that, haggis being haggis, the blood pudding basically was the black pudding's blood pudding?
Yep.
And then what was the white?
So white pudding is basically fat with oats.
Okay.
And other bits of the animal.
Well, I'm saying it because I am looking over at like facial expressions on the table from me. For those people who haven't had some proper Scottish food.
Not yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, like the black pudding is basically they say it's called black, but really it's kind of a really dark red, because basically you get some oats, you soak it in blood.
I was about to say, so it's blood.
Yeah.
Dark red, so it's blood. Okay.
Well, it's kind of that congealed blood look. But
yeah,
it's great, right? Great. So the idea of haggis tacos, that's a thought. Interesting. And
for reference in the chat there, that's what Wayne's talking about. Is everything is just a sort of brown-looking thing made of pastry wrapping around a center of something. That's their website. They've recently added pizza to the menu, but everything else there is quite accurate.
Okay, I gotta look at this.
The first thing I thought of was haggis pizza, and my brain just shuts right off.
Dude, haggis pizza is so popular here.
Really?
Oh yeah, it's a thing.
Well, so you gotta remember. No. You gotta remember, pizza is not a specific type of or flavor combination. Pizza is a delivery mechanism. It is a flatbread of some sort topped with various types of topping. And I say this because when I went to Japan, their idea of pizza didn't touch anything I was familiar with in any way. When you can have sushi pizza and various type of like teriyaki pizzas and all this other stuff that were...
I made a hot dog pizza once. It was actually pretty good.
It's a delivery mechanism.
That's
so
better than pineapples.
for a hot dog pizza, you do, instead of your red sauce, you do chili.
Oh, so a chili dog
cheese,
one.
you slice up a hot dog for your pepperoni, quote unquote. Grill some onions, throw it on there, cook it up. When you pull it out, throw some mustard on top as a drizzle. Oh my god, it was bomb.
Oh wow, that sounds awesome.
But again, it's a delivery mechanism.
It's like the whole thing about it was that it's like, yeah, I can picture like sushi pizza, but every time I think of pizza, I'm always thinking of whatever it is that's being delivered is drenched in tomato sauce, and I'm like,
well, but that's the thing, right? Because you can have white pizza stuff, and I always say one of my favorite pizzas I ever had was on the back of a Carnival cruise ship where they had a 24-hour pizza bar, and it had much more Mediterranean flavors than it did like traditional United States ones, and it was so nice. So I can imagine a haggis pizza. It's one of those things you kind of have to, I don't know, chew on a bit.
Anymore when I make pizza at home, I use Alfredo.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, she likes her Alfredo on her pizza.
Instead of red sauce.
Yeah,
I don't like red sauce all that much.
Okay, so I'm going to say, as I look at this site here for Greg's, I laugh because this is like all good advertising in the sense that these look so much prettier than what I remember from any of the stuff we saw or had.
It's a pile of brown grease.
Well, I was gonna say, no, the fact that like the rolls have this nice, perfectly grilled like look to them is so not what I remember.
They just used Sculpey and painted it for these.
Oh gosh, they look so much more delectable in these pictures than when you see them fresh sitting in the bin.
Then you see them in person, and they're like the worst thing.
Well, no, they're not the worst because they tasted great. And the other challenge or thing you have to be aware of is that they look great, but when if you order different types of the rolls, you don't necessarily know what they are when you get them home. Because they all look the same.
Oh, wow.
It's a surprise!
Yeah, because I remember that was one of the big ones.
That's the most popular British fast food, right? Like, that's the day-to-day... that's our version of McDonald's. Like, we still have McDonald's and people still like it, but Greg's is the most popular here. And it's honestly a very... well, I suppose kind of McDonald's is as well. It's kind of a very lower to middle class type thing because you're on your way to work and you work, long hours, but you got to feed your kids quickly and you got to pick them up from school. So you drop by Greg's and buy all your kids a sausage roll each because they're like 50 cents and you can buy 3 for $1. So you can feed the whole family on $1 and it's hot food and it's quick. And then very suddenly we have an obesity crisis and we wonder why.
Well, no, I joke.
That's correct.
No, it's one of the things I bring up because people love to categorize the United States as being this massively unhealthy population when it comes to food. And then I go to the UK. And I'm like, but everything here is fried.
Our average is worse. Our average is worse, but we have better outliers. You guys have crazy outliers, right?
We do.
Like the biggest people. There's, I don't know. You guys have a lot more extremely skinny and extremely obese people in the US.
There.
It's a really interesting thing. Where for some, I guess because everybody has to drive everywhere, anywhere, whereas you kind of have to walk.
That was exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah, it's a culture there. It's a culture thing, I guess. But it's quite interesting. Anyway, this is going. Your opinion is wrong somehow. I don't know how we did.
Well, no, this is sharing who we are in the framework of this show that we've been doing, right? It kind of influences the things we talk about, what we bring up, all these other things, because it is a show that is very much you and I, Ken, and it is a conglomeration of also all the interfaces and discussions we have with everyone who's our fans. And so that's why it's okay for us to kind of go off topic a little bit or just kind of go whatever the path takes us. I mean, the opinion in wrong is more me saying, trying not to get into the debates that we love. I know you and I, Ken, love these debates. We believe we're very thoughtful people, and so we get into subjects where it's not just that we're trying to crush you with a specific opinion. We have formed our opinions from a lot of either research, reading, and looking at both sides of things. So we believe we can usually talk to them well, and thus it makes us want to. And some people don't. Anyhow.
Yeah, the problem is that we usually go so far down and plus the problem is we agree with each other a lot. That's not the best thing for air.
Honestly, what destroyed the show more than anything is that one, we were trying to do it at 6 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Yikes.
Yeah. Well, so that Ken wouldn't have to always be doing late night things and take away from his Saturday night, so we'd come up with a time for that. Which also might be a way to bring things back, is if you do come over to this time zone, we could maybe find more appropriate time. And so, because your opinion wrong is fun. But because we agree on so many things, we have to almost find a dissenting opinion, or we have to, one of us has to play devil's advocate for the other side, and has to do a little bit of research and help try to understand why do they believe the things they do. Because, like, I believe, Ken and I, you tell me, Ken, do you believe you could give a solid, and I'm going to touch on a very specific one, a solid counterpoint argument or be the devil's advocate if it came into a discussion of like flat earthers?
I was gonna go with that.
Oh my god. Yeah, no.
The problem with flat earthers is that it's largely based on pseudoscience. So if I just kept making up stuff, man. But if I climb a building and look out the horizon, it doesn't even look round, man. Then that's pretty much their whole argument, right?
I put a level on the ground. It says it's flat.
Have you ever seen that fantastic video on YouTube? I think it's from a documentary where there's these flat earthers who are like, to prove that the Earth is flat, what we've done is we've gone to this really flat desert in I don't know, somewhere in the southern US, and they got these two lasers, and they had a plan where they're going to flash them at the same time, then move them further apart, and they'll continually always be able to connect. And after a very obvious measurement that's based on the curvature of the Earth, suddenly they stopped being able to connect, and they were like, well, that must be a technical fault. Let's move on. And they just,
I went up a hill
over it completely.
Yes.
Even though it totally disproved everything they believed in. Oh, man.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
And that's what I'm saying, because there are certain subjects, and that's why I brought that one up, because I know both Ken and I would have difficulty providing an honest response, because there's things I don't agree with, and yes, Copy, I love that one.
I love it too.
There's specific, some subjects come up where I can at least see why they believe the things they do on the other side. That's one of those ones that I've yet to be able to grasp, and I've listened to some serious discussions on it where they try to provide, I won't say facts, things to support their argument. And every one of them,
that's
I'm like,
why you
come on.
We've got to discuss stuff that's like social issues, right? If we have scientific topics, we'll just well, science says this.
And Ken and I tend to agree on that. Yeah, we tend to agree on most of those things. And so that's another reason the show is a challenge. And I always had a vision for it of Your Opinion is Wrong as being something that would be going out and finding subject matter experts on either side of an issue, and Ken and I playing moderator.
Oh, good luck.
Where no, in the sense that it would be truly, in the thing that, here's Your Opinion is Wrong segment, it would be a moment where we would help keep it to discourse and conversation and not just blatant attacking each other. The whole point of us moderating would be to keep people from doing a throwaway argument of, because you're and I'm going to classify a wide group that thus shuts down my need to listen to you, or in a respectful way.
Careful.
But that's what I mean, right? Is it's very easy for people to disengage from a conversation by lumping their opposition into a group. Oh, yeah, you're saying that because you're one of these people, right?
Totally, right? The categorization is something humans do because it's a very useful technique for when we're trying to deal with a lot of information at once, right? If you walk into a group like a high school, like your first time in high school, and you look around like an area or a class or whatever, and there's like 40, 50, 100 people, to be able to quickly gather all the information as much as you can and be able to have some kind of chance of socializing, you need to simplify, right? You simplify the problem so that you can solve it more easily, and then you add complexity and solve it again, and then you do this again and again and again. And so at the very start, we first see people, we put them into these simple boxes of like jocks, losers, nerds, whatever, right? It's often discriminatory and dumb, and they're overly simplistic, and they take away any real facets that make us individuals and base it on obvious physical traits, usually. And then we sort of like, as we get to know the people, we cut that down into actual realistic human beings and a more realistic model. And it's never accurate, because it's more accurate every time you talk to them, right? And I think that's the big problem, is that most people who categorize people generally as a big group haven't talked to them yet, right? They've just said they're all just part of this one group, including flat earthers, by the way, I imagine.
Oh, yeah.
We just see them all as flat earthers. I've never talked to one. I've never once talked to one. Who am I to really classify them all as these idiots? Who knows? I imagine most of them are actually intelligent people who just haven't bothered to read anything and trusted their uncle at a party once.
Well, we were talking about the other day, it almost seems more like it's conspiracy theory based, and there's a psychological condition for that I still haven't looked up to find the word for.
Flat earthers from around the globe.
That should be someone's group. Someone should.
That is a Facebook group, and someone like screenshot it, circled the world around the globe, and they're like, "Are you sure?"
No, that's just a term. No, that's great.
It's a figure of speech.
So, but that was always one of my goals with Your Opinion is Wrong that I thought would be wonderful, is finding, and it didn't have to be like new people over time, but it was people that had a level of expertise or knowledge in a subject, so that we could pair them against each other, not to fight, but to present their view of the subject and allow the audience to decide. Really, like, I don't know what news broadcasts are supposed to be,
to provide information and to be able to help the conversation go by, not to change anyone's opinion, but to provide information about that subject so that either side can go boom. Where, I mean, at the same time, Ken and I always reserving the opportunity to use the tag of, nope, your opinion is wrong. Because we did that a lot. There are certain subjects just like, nope. All right, with that though, and we don't have a specific time limit on today's show, because we figured since Ken has freedom and was able to knock out his thesis and get that all submitted so that he no longer has to, consider his life choices every day.
Sorry, allergies.
We are going to give him the opportunity to stay on a little later today and for us all to maybe play some games and stuff beyond talking, or just to keep talking. We'll see how it goes. But for us to get a...
She just saw Hendo's comment.
Oh, gotcha. I was like, wait, what? Oh, gosh. Well played, sir. Well played. But on the note that my drink is dangerously low,
yes,
as we are celebrating with bubbly for our 400th show on this end with some champagne-induced mimosas, we're going to give an opportunity for us to catch a breath, refill our drinks, refreshing, and allow you guys to listen to a little bit of break music. And this thing is going to be one of our OC remix songs, because they're all open for anybody to play without royalty. Thank you. And because it's gaming related and geek, and we love that. And so going back to some good old fashioned youthful things, this one is an OC remix song for Zelda 64 from, if I read it right, I don't know if I'll say it right, but Chthonic, song from them. So thank you. We'll be back just under 4 minutes with that to continue the show. So with that, you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com, and we will continue right after this.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. listening to Show X on btwproductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. We have refreshed drinks in hand and are ready to continue. So, awesome. All right, so as we're doing with our 400th episode, and check and see, everyone reminding you, you're welcome to both join us in the discussion by jumping into Skype and joining us at VTW shows.
By the way, with the Skype, what's going on with the videos?
Oh, yeah. They turned off their video on their end.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe something happened over here.
I haven't turned off I haven't turned off, by the way. Mine looks fine to me, and so does in fact, I can't see you, Wayne. Now I think about it.
That's weird.
And I noticed with the other person whose name I forgot.
Cupcheck, yeah.
Yeah. I noticed his video
Cupcheck,
cut out last time.
Well, it was both of theirs, so let me, maybe if I...
Let's restart the call.
Yeah.
Well, I turned mine off, so...
Okay.
So
it's just Wayne.
Well, I think that might have been what did it, but now my Skype is sitting here pissed off, so... we'll try anyways, just to... I'm going to kill and bring back the call as we continue to discuss this.
Sure.
So, maybe. Skype's like, you say you want to kill me, but...
You shall not pass.
So we're going to go the old-fashioned way and say, hey, die a hard and death. There we go.
Control-Alt-Delete.
Essentially. As...
Task manager.
And so...
God, for the first time in years, I got a virus on my computer the other day, and I had to fight to get it cleaned off. That was a pain in the neck.
Hey, there we go. Okay, got you guys.
Hello.
Woohoo!
Well, now it's doing other fun things.
Hello?
Hello there.
All right, actually, I wonder if I can do... Hey, look, I can get both you guys in the stream window now.
Huh? I don't think anyone would actually want to see me, but okay.
Yeah, you're going to deal with it.
Okay, that's fine.
There we go. As I continue to try to manage everything. But now we got everybody on view. Yes, that works.
Yay.
All right, sweet. So, back and continuing on to the show. So, my reminder being to anybody who wants to join in, you're welcome to join into the video chat with the Skype, as well as you're welcome to send an email in to let us know a little bit about your thoughts on Show X over the years, why you join us, what you like, as well as anything you'd like to see in the future. Because we do have, like I said, I would almost want to share the some level of the form that Ken and I have maintained, the document saying all of these ideas of what Show X could be doing. In fact, we're hoping to invest some of the money that you guys do support us with to help clean things up and make them better as we continue to do. At some point in the future, and, thanks to Hando's recommendation, I hope to upgrade this quality that's been lasting us for many years, unless this a multi-channel mixer that we have that kind of does all the audio behind the scenes, bring all the stuff together. Hando helped source us, or made us look at what could be an amazing opportunity in the future. And so it's on the to-do list, but it's not inexpensive. You'd be surprised the amount that Ken and I have invested in the show just because we're like, we could be better. We need studio lights. Yeah, we need to be seen in a consistent lighting format. Hey, we need less echo, so we need some sound deadening material around the area and such like that. Oh, hey, we should have quality mics so everybody can hear us well. Things like that. Just little things, because that's what we like to do. And hey, Kuro, welcome to the show. But no, yeah, feel free to email in at showx@vtwproductions.com. I'm keeping an eye on that one as well, because we'd love to hear more about what you guys think of the show and any, like I said, memories or thoughts or just stuff as we keep talking about what we've been doing. So, throwing that out there. I do think we can take an opportunity here in general, because Ken, you had some general subjects or regular subjects to bring up this week as well, right? Not just talking about
many things.
So
I've not been here for weeks.
Right. So let's give an opportunity for a little bit of that. Oops, that is not where I wanted to go. I was trying to figure out. So as I also set up all the new buttons for everything, we can do an official thing of saying, "Hey,
Dysfunctional Deviations,"
and say, "Ken, what have you been up to that you like to catch up with as you've been running around and doing stuff like that?" And yes, as John here is suffering from some level of the allergies, don't know if it's my cats or what, because they tend to stay out of this room for the most part. But who knows? Something is making him a one-eyed bandit right now.
Arr.
So,
well, we did just watch the first Pirates yesterday again. So.
Nice. All right. Ken, fill us in. What you been up to? What did you like people to know about since you've been running around being busy the last several weeks?
First thing, though, when you say you watched the first Pirates, that means something different to me. Because I
Oh.
That's not Pirates. Wait, are you aware of the film Pirates?
Yes. Pirates of the Caribbean. Let me specify, not the alternative movie.
Oh my!
Sure.
I'm in the dark about this one.
Me too.
What? You're kidding me. This was like I was in Las Cruces when this hit. This was a big thing.
Oh yeah.
I had never saw it, but I'm curious about it.
It was industry shattering because it was the first full feature length movie with a realistic budget that's kind of actually quite impressive. That was a porno, and it was based on pirates. And it's got the cheesiest lines throughout, and it's just
wait. Pornos anyway.
Was it VR?
It was so successful. I think they made like another 1, 2, 3 films afterwards. That are
no kidding! I didn't even know that.
Films.
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
That's entertaining to hear. I did not know. So you guys have taught me something.
I was going to say, what's wrong with it? If you guys are watching Pirates, that's cool. You show your sexuality. Good for you guys.
Couples who watch. Wait. No. Couples who do that.
Oh gosh, that's hilarious. So,
God, I'd forgotten about that.
I had no idea, and I've always been referring to it as just pirates because it's easier.
That's why people give you the looks.
Yeah, now you know. I love watching Pirates.
Hello there.
I set up my whole weekend around watching Pirates. Are you kidding?
Oh god, this derailed in a hurry.
Well, and as my brother would have... Well, it depends on your knowledge, right?
So I want to give a shout out to my good friend Graham. It's his birthday today.
Hey!
I would normally be doing something with him, but he's actually closer to you right now, Wayne. He's over. In fact, he's much closer to Copy more than anybody here, because he's actually visiting Niagara today.
Oh wow!
So he went to Niagara Falls this morning, but I think him and his girlfriend are staying. Sorry, him and his fiance are staying in for this week or something like that.
Okay, so how long has that been a thing? Because I don't think I've actually seen anything officially on that.
Oh yeah, they announced on all the Instagrams and Facebooks and such.
Which I don't follow them.
Graham doesn't have a Facebook anymore or an Instagram. He only has Messenger, whereas his fiance does have both. So she announced on both. Where they got the mandatory 200 likes or whatever, and all that stuff. So he proposed at a castle in Fife, I believe. So that was quite romantic.
Nice. Well, and I say this mostly because Graham and his girlfriend are two of the most adorable people. And when I first met them together, I looked as like, well, yeah, these two belong together.
They're both super smart, super attractive. They're both just such nice, really, really nice, caring people. They're really sweet and generous. In fact, they are the only people who have gotten me a card saying, congratulations on handing in your thesis. That's how sweet they are. They're that kind of people, They go out of their way to give cards because they just in case it makes you feel nice or something. They're really sweet that way. So he's in Canada. They're both in Canada for the next 3 weeks or something mad like that. So they're having a good time. I'm actually cameraless for the first time in a long time because I gave it to them as to borrow for the next.
Oh wow!
So they can have that.
Awesome. Well, at least we know they're on the right side of Niagara, so that's good to hear. If they're on the Canadian side, because that is so much prettier.
Really?
And so, oh gosh,
I've never been. So.
No, the Canadian side is so much better. Go there, as well as the actual town around it is amazing. So do that. Thank you, Copy.
Yeah, including a winter apparently, because you can see the falls freeze, which is quite an impressive sight apparently. So I had a bunch of stuff going on in the past few weeks. I went to Prague. I talked about that before. I think I had a show after that, maybe. Then we went away to a little weekend getaway straight afterwards, me and Kitten, so that I could write my thesis all for 40 hours straight effectively. So I'm in the field of computing science, right? And so doing a thesis in computing science is a bit different than doing it in other fields because, unlike the humanities or biology or even most physics and such, that requires real-world experiments. Most of our stuff is just run as a simulation on a computer, unsurprisingly, right? So, it was 4 days before my hand-in, I was still running experiments. I was balls to the wall, running hardcore, trying to get this all done. And I managed to do it in time and with some spare, I would say. It worked out very nicely. So yeah, it went very well, handed in and success. Now the other thing that really got in the way of handing in my thesis in time, it was due on Wednesday there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 days ago. 2 days before it, in the middle of the night. So this is Monday, Tuesday early morning, about 1:30 in the morning local time. Ken and I hear a loud banging through our houses. So we're in like this terraced block of houses, maybe 5 houses in a row, and we felt the shuddering that woke us up. I actually woke up to Kitten shouting, Ken, call the police, Ken, there's something crazy happening. So I run downstairs, shoving on clothes and stuff, and like, what's going on? And she says, I don't know, but listen. And yeah, I know. I then noticed that there's big banging noise and the lights are shaking and, stuff around the house is moving and the dogs are going crazy. And I'm like, what's going on here? So we had some construction works going on outside the house. And I assumed that was some drunk idiots coming home from the pub and knocking down some of the signs or something on the road. I don't know, or maybe dropping the concrete blocks there that were, causing that kind of shuddering effect. So, it sort of faded after a few minutes, and we said, screw it, I'm guessing they went home or whatever, let's just go back to bed. Again, after about 3 or 4 minutes, it starts again, louder. So I shove my clothes on again, I'm running downstairs. And I say, I look outside and I see that the end neighbor, so 4 houses down from me, is going in and out of his house. And I thought, oh crap, if this guy is, fighting off these hooligans outside, I don't want to leave him be. I don't want to leave this guy alone. So I venture outside, and I say to Ken, this time definitely call the police. Call our version 911, 999. I call them now because there's some stuff going down, right? So I go out fully dressed now, and I head outside, and I see him going back into his house again. And this time the door's been left wide open. I'm like, this is weird. What's going on? So I sort of slowly walk towards there, looking inside the house, what's going on? It's 1:30, and I noticed that there's lots of shouting. There's a male voice shouting loudly. There's a female voice shrieking and screaming and crying. Oh, there's also a shriller, higher voice of a kid crying very loudly. And I go closer, thinking I don't know what I thought at this point. I wasn't sure what to expect, but I notice I go close enough and I can see inside the house properly now. And this in the entryway to the house, I see this man about my age. He's a lot skinnier than me, about a foot shorter than me as well, leaning over his wife, and he is beating the crap into her.
Oh no!
He is absolutely pummeling her. In the ribs, and it's horrible. And she's in a fetal position down below him, getting this beating, and not even a foot away was their 4-year-old kid right next to them.
Oh man!
Right there, and he's just throwing these punches, not holding nothing back. Right, he was using his full strength. So I run in. Right, I'm running straight at them, and I say, I scream something. I can't remember what I said exactly. It was something along the lines of, stop, get off her, what the hell are you doing? And he instantly stops, turns back, looks around, and his eyes, I don't know how well you can see in the camera, but his eyes were, completely looking the wrong direction, and he was just off of it. I've later learned that he was definitely on large amounts of cocaine.
I was going to say, on something, yeah.
He was just gone. So after I said, get off them, and he backs off, he looks at me, and then I'm guessing because I was clearly about to kill this guy. He must have seen the look in my eye. I was going to kill him.
6 foot.
Yeah, I was looking down at him, I should say. And he says, "Fine, you take them." So I do. I grab the wife. I grab this kid, pull them out of their house, and down the steps, and they're both just crying, and it's just horrible, right? She's weeping and bright red because she's just been beaten, right?
Yeah.
And I take them into my house and I hand them over to Kitten Features, and she knows straight away I'm going to get them tea, I'm going to look after them, first aid, all this stuff, and I'm like, you're fantastic, I love you, yeah, look after them. I'm going to stand outside and I'm going to make sure this guy doesn't come get us. So I just stand outside the house and sort of stand guard. So About 10 seconds later, honestly, there was no time at all. And I gotta say, I've called the police in the past about usually minor things like disturbances, and usually it takes them hours to come out. This is the fastest I have ever seen them come out, because that was less than a minute we called. 2 police vans show up with about 14, 15 officers, all piling out. Wow. Our house is kind of in a weird place away from the road, so I run over to where I see them all piling out, and I guide them over to this guy's house. So we're all jogging over to this guy's house. I point them in. They all charge in. They break down his door, even though it was already half broken in because he was pounding on it earlier, as it turns out. That's what that banging noise was.
Gotcha.
And they arrest the crap out of him, right? Like they throw him down, and he resists arrest very poorly, and he's just done. It was nice to see. So yeah, eventually the police say to me, like, "Can we take a statement?" I was like, "Do you not want to see the wife and kid?" And they're like, "Oh, he has a wife and kid?" I was like, "Yeah."
Wow.
Like
that's why we called.
They had no idea, right?
Yeah.
I
got you.
didn't know at the time. Just said there was this disturbance. As it turns out, they had about 15 calls from all of our neighbors. So everybody's light was on at this point because there was so much noise. And this is so unusual. Our area has never had anything like this before. This was crazy. So the police, all these police people all suddenly come into our house, which half an hour before it was a nice quiet house, quiet domicile with, sleeping puppies and sleeping people. Suddenly is the brimming hub of police activity. We start making every tea and everything. They start doing an interview for the kid, and they check the kid over, and they do an interview for the wife, and they check her over. I get an interview, and I have to give a statement as well.
Yeah.
And we're all just like doing all this sort of like post-crime activity stuff. So this is 2 nights before my thesis is due.
Of course.
I was up. We were up until about 3:30 or 5 a.m. that morning. We were just doing police stuff. I made a point of saying to the police in the statement, I thought he was going to kill her, right? Like, and I said that very clearly because I want that to be written down, even if. Whatever happens with this case, I wanted to have at least some eyewitness account of saying how bad that brutality was, because it was horrendous. It was so bad.
Oh my god.
So that's pretty much all that happens that night, right? The police leave and everything's fine. They take her away, look after. He gets thrown in a cell for the night.
I say that's all that happened that night. Wow.
Well, so far, right? So the next day, I get back to work. In fact, I couldn't sleep that night, so I just stayed up working the rest of the night and the rest of the day.
Understandably.
Yeah, it's really hard to sleep after that adrenaline rush, right?
Oh yeah.
About 7 p.m. that evening, there's a knock at the door, and Ken Features gets up to go answer it. I'm like, no.
Right?
Don't you answer that. I don't know who that is, and I no longer trust the door, right? I don't know who it's going to be. So I'm charging towards the door now. I could feel myself getting angry. I was like, if that guy is coming back for vengeance, right, I'm going to freaking rip his head off, right? I'm going to kill this guy. I opened the door I must have looked so mad when I opened the door. And it's this elderly lady, middle-aged. She's like 60 years old.
Well, so
maybe.
Already, we'll just interjecting before Ken actually answers what happens here. Ken has a history with old people. And so
that sounds terrible.
My initial thought I know my expectation is this is not going to go that direction. But my initial thought is with Ken running to the door, ready to kill, opening the door on this old person, this lady. My initial thought was her almost like, oh God, I'm going to die.
Heart attack collapses right there.
Only because of Ken's history, but that's jokingly saying. No, please continue, Ken.
So I open this door, and there's this nicely dressed, middle-aged to slightly elderly, not quite retirement age lady, and she says, I'm trying actually not to tear up right now. She says to me, and this is something I'll probably like remember on my deathbed. She said, "Are you the man who saved my daughter's life?"
Oh,
and. The night before, I hadn't teared up. I was just so angry, But when she said that to me, and she was crying instantly, like when she said it, tears started flowing down her face, and I had the exact same response back. I just started. I've cried maybe like 3 times in my adult life, one being my wedding, right? But this was just, it broke my heart.
Wow.
So I don't know what to say to that. I think I just sort of said I helped your daughter, yeah. And anyway, so we talked for about 10 minutes, and she said, tell me exactly what happened, because for the past 5 years I've been trying to break them up because
Oh my gosh.
he's been abusing her mentally. But I didn't know if it was physical or not. Can you tell me exactly what happened? I'm like, are you sure you want to know this? Like, this is tough stuff. And she said, I want to know every detail. Like, tell me exactly what you told the police. I was like, all right. So I tell her basically this whole story. I tell her the exact same thing. And again, she's crying through it. I'm crying through it. And when I finish saying it, she sort of like does like a little whimper thing and hugs me. And she's still weeping and I'm weeping. And it was just oh my God. Like the fact that she's been through this for 5 years, and she said she always suspected there was something wrong with this couple. Like that she knew there was something wrong with her daughter. She knew she was being abused. But the fact that when I explained the beating properly, I think it was a mix of relief to know that there was, there's real
validation.
Evidence validation of it, right? Yeah, that also that extreme, I knew it. I've been trying for years, and my daughter's been getting beaten for years, and it took this long for something to come of it. Yeah. So she then gives me the news that he went to court that day, and he pled not guilty.
Huh. Good luck with that.
Absolute POS. Less than human. And he's going to go back to court on the 10th, I was told. So 6 days from now, he'll be back in court. And depending on how that goes, if he says not guilty again, the likelihood is I'll be taken in as a witness. Yeah. And I've had a little bit. I've chatted with some of my lawyer-y type friends, and we talked about the best approach for this, and they said, look, if the wife doesn't come forward with this, there's no charges going to be levied against him. However, your eyewitness account would mean nothing for the wife. However, the kid being in a violent situation, if you say the truth, which is that the kid was right there when he was throwing punches, no regard given for the kid, and there is a good likelihood the kid got hit as well, right? Then there is a good chance that my testimony could potentially get the kids taken away from there. So even though I might not be able to save the wife, more than in a single instance,
you can only do so much.
She
has to stand up for herself and admit there's an issue, and that's one of those horrible problems with situations like that. Is because, if she doesn't press charges, there is no just general safety clause in there. She has to want to be helped in some way.
Well, and if she's been mentally abused even, then there's the possibility that he's like somehow ingrained in her head that you're not going to get anything better than me, and she's not going to put any charges on.
She's stuck in that mindset. She's beaten into a place of he's exerted power. This is really the meaning of power, right? He has exerted power over her for 5 years. She feels completely powerless. He's in a jail cell, and she doesn't feel like she can do anything about it. That's how powerful this guy is to her. He's not that's been ingrained over dozens, maybe hundreds of beatings.
Yes.
The police said to me on that night that was the worst domestic violence case they've seen in this town in years.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's how bad. She didn't go to hospital or anything, which I think was another mistake, because I think that's a good way to get evidence.
Yeah, because you get it documented.
Yeah, so sadly, I don't think that happened.
That tells me she is.
But we'll see what happens. If I find out more and I'm able to discuss it, because right now...
legally, right? Yeah, legally, we won't know, but... I think everybody out here, is feeling in a similar way, Ken, of just kind of the whole situation is...
Holy shit!
Yeah.
And that your response was absolutely...
godlike!
Yeah. Yes. I mean, dang. That I was not expecting you to go there, Ken.
Yeah.
You've been a busy boy. Jeez.
Superhero Ken.
I've had a lot of people say really kind things to me about this, about the fact that you're a hero, you've really done something. I mean, I don't feel like it. I feel like I've done nothing, because all I feel like is completely powerless.
Well, but you feel
that piece of human garbage is still likely going to be roaming.
It isn't sorted yet, and it must be almost. I'd almost assume, Ken, that you feel like you did what anyone would have done in that situation, right?
Yeah,
that you just did what was right. And so I can understand not feeling like you did anything extraordinary, but I will give you this, Ken. Unlike many people, especially in today's kind of world, we have too many people who think it's enough to document something happening, and part of it, I think, is somewhat selfish on their part, in that they don't want to put themselves out there and get potentially in the way of something. And there's some truth to that, because some situations are just too dangerous, and you don't necessarily need to endanger yourself. But in a situation like this, Ken, you did what many people maybe would never have done, in that you stepped up and stopped that immediate violence in that situation at hand. You jumped in where a lot of people might not have had the wherewithal to do that and potentially risk themselves to save someone. So you did do a great thing there.
Thank you very much. But you know what? If the situation was different, if there was two people, like two guys punching each other in the street, I'd call the police, but I wouldn't intervene. I'd be like, you're both doing it. You're both hitting each other. It seems like a fair fight. Go do you.
And that's a different
situation. This was somebody
domestic
in the
violence
fetal position,
Yes.
like trying to just defend her head. Right?
It was
That's
a victim.
what
She was a victim, and
doing.
you were saving her. Yeah. That's
like,
totally
I would have done that in any situation, no matter who the perpetrator was, or no matter who the victim was, right? Because as soon as somebody's in that position, they've said, "I am not a threat to you. Please stop hitting me," and
It's
you're
done,
still
yeah.
going for it.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over and done with. That's not a fight. That's an execution. Yeah. And that was just a horrendous thing to see. And there's a kid right there. I swear, I don't know what I'm going to do if this court case, if he gets away with this, because he's going to be in that house down the street from me.
You're going to be very aware and very neighborly, and if nothing else, maybe provide a sense of an opportunity or a outlet for the victims in this, to let them know that they have a place they can come, and someone who is looking out for them, so that maybe they feel a little more power. Because you're not going to do anything that's going to compromise yourself, but you're going to be aware.
Yeah, that's the difficult thing, right? If this guy decides that he wants to seek vengeance, well, we actually now have installed the security camera. We were a bit worried because, me and Ken go out to work at the same time, and you never know, we might come back and find the house broken into, the dog's been hurt or something.
Yep.
That would be our worst nightmare. So, we have to do something. So we've now got a motion activated camera that will now keep an eye out at least. So that was one of the major things that's happened to me recently. And that's 2 times I have seen domestic violence assault happen in the UK. The other time was in plain daylight when I was in Ipswich about a year ago. I don't know if you remember me talking about it on the show. A woman was attacked by apparently it was her husband and her husband's brother. They were beating her head and threw her in the back of a car and drove off. I called 999 and gave the license plate number, and nothing happened of it because the woman again said, "Oh no, it was fine. That's just us playing."
Yeah.
When, she apparently had bruises all over her face and stuff. Like, it's just this behavior. It makes me lose faith in the legal system. It really does. It really, really does.
I feel for you, Ken, because a couple of years ago I kind of witnessed something happen in my own neighborhood when I was still living with my parents. I watched one of my neighbors come flying down the street in her car, pull into the driveway at the friend's house that she was staying at. Another car comes flying down the street behind her, and she pulls out of the driveway again, trying to get away, and he blocks her car with his truck. And before she can get out and get running, he is out of his truck, pulling open her door and reaching in to strangle her.
Oh my God!
I was barefoot, but my parents' front yard has a fence around it. I was ready to book it over that fence and strangle that guy in her place.
Right.
And
I thought you did hop it too, didn't you?
I did hop it, but another neighbor was already on his feet booking it towards her. So yeah, there were 2 witnesses. He was already on the phone, and I feel you.
Yeah.
I'm like livid and like feeling the jitters again already.
I'm very fortunate.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you.
I'm fortunate I haven't had to stop violence. I've had to deal with trauma for others and things like that. But the closest to violence I've had to do is just getting punched in the back of the head trying to keep an idiot who was drunk with me from starting a fight. But nothing, thankfully, that caliber that you guys have suffered, which can't imagine.
Yeah, I think every day for a week after that I was checking in on her, seeing how she was doing. I was like, is he in jail? What's going on with this situation?
Well, and going on to the sense of the slash salute, absolutely cheers to you, Ken. And salute, because being a good human and decent individual. So good job, sir.
A rare breed these days.
Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody in the chat as well. I see there's been lots of nice comments put there as well. So cheers. Thank you.
So besides that, Ken, what else have you got for the last couple weeks?
So that was on Monday night.
4 or 5 moments. 4 or 5 moments.
Wait till you hear Tuesday.
Oh boy.
was a slow Monday. No.
So the SWAT team landed, right?
Yeah,
right. Yeah, so on Tuesday, straight after the events of that, I stayed up all night because of that and the adrenaline and everything.
Yeah.
I had my job interview that day.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so that was at 4 p.m. So I was awake for about 15 hours at that point. So I was very tired going into this interview. And I have to say that it was kind of a... I really cared about the interview because I really want this job. But considering what had just happened the night before,
perspective was a little different.
In the past 6 months, in the past 4 years, what is the most important thing in your life in terms of like goals and what's important right now, other than obvious things like family and my wife and my pets and so on? I would have said my thesis, right? I would have said, working on my thesis is what I should focus most of my time on because that's something I need to do. I need to get my PhD done. But this was 2 days before the deadline and all that stuff happened. And I had my job interview the next day. But as soon as that happened, I just didn't care. I was like, oh yeah, job interview is something that's easy. That's a normal person's life. Handing in a thesis, that's what people who don't get beat every day do. That's easy. That's no problem. Because I don't have the problems that they have.
Yeah.
And my perspective just changed completely. I was no longer stressed. I was like, this is no problem. Like, I walked into the interview with like I don't want to swear, but 0 F's to give.
Yeah.
I was just like... This is nothing.
It's about
this is nothing now,
It's about perspective, and you had a recent event to really focus your perspective on events in your life, and so I can understand that. No, that's
yeah.
So in that sense, do you feel like it went well?
Oh, so the interview went very well. I think. I'll be careful. You never know who's listening, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't have to identify anything about it.
I could say it really did go very well. It was a very strange interview to me because. I've had 3 interviews for after my PhD before this interview, and every single one has been on Skype, and every single one has required a presentation of my research and technical interview questions, and then informal personality questions, and then at the end where there's 5 minutes for me to ask some questions. And usually it's about an hour to an hour and a half long, like really, really hardcore interviews. They're really tough, right?
Yeah.
And I was ready for it. That's what I was kind of expecting. But he told me it was informal, and I wasn't. I don't know. It's my first American interview. I thought maybe it's just an American thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just a normal interview, but they want me to feel relaxed and they're being polite. I don't know. So I went. I wore my suit on the Skype, sitting in my office. Well, I wore the top half of.
Yeah, I was about to say naked from the waist down. Naked from the waist down, but had a jacket on.
No. I was in the office. I was at work. I wasn't half naked.
Well, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if this was like from home type thing.
I didn't have much confidence in the interview, though. I was just agreeing to being fired that day. So I went in, and it was so informal that we spent the first half hour just chatting about like the weather, and the guy was telling me about the city. I won't say which city because I don't really want to advertise posters or anything. I'll say the state though, because there's several universities in the state. It's Alabama.
Okay.
So it's the south. Which, oh my god, the heat there, I'm going to melt into a puddle. Because it's too hot in Scotland for me, right? Like, this is too hot right now for me. Like, I'm going to die there. I'm going to have like a portable like AC Zorb with me or something. So I have my own little personalized environment as I walk around, Mr. Freeze suit or something. So it was a very informal interview. We just sort of chatted. Eventually, I kind of started leading the interview because I was like, I need some questions answered.
You need to know this about me, and I need to know this about this job.
I want you guys to like me. I want this job. So I just start sort of launching into my research, and I tell them about it, and then I launched into asking questions about the job and seeing how applicable it was to me. And oh my god, it is super applicable to what I do.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to say going to the board.
Yeah,
details,
no, that's fine.
There's a very obvious transferable skills there. There's a lot of creative freedom in this position. I learned something really cool, which is that this job position, compared to the ones in the UK, well, okay. I don't care about talking about pay. It doesn't scare me, and I hope nobody's squeamish about this kind of thing. So postdocs, generally speaking, which is what you do for like a couple of years after a PhD, short-term contracts usually. It's usually between 2 months to 2 year contracts. And your pay is usually on the lower scale, because that's what's expected. So here in the UK, you're expected to be between £32,000 to £38,000, which is maybe like up to $45,000 max. And you get no benefits really here in the UK, and that's kind of what you're expecting. That's just what and to us, $45,000 would be one of the upper scale ones, right? So I'd be very happy with that. This position is $60,000 and up, and I was like, what? I had no idea. Now that I looked into it, I've realized that actually fits in perfectly fine with living standards and what's expected from this kind of position.
Well, I was going to say, for the type of job you're going for, well, granted, I work in a realm where the range is slightly skewed because of what you have to work with, but you should easily be starting at that range here in the States, depending on where you're looking at. And depending on your background, and I'd have to look more specific into your area, Ken, but because you don't, and make sure you sell yourself properly, because you don't just have your thesis and degree, right? You have experience in all of the fields and teaching and things like that. So you have more than what most people may be aware. Because I don't see any reason why I couldn't push you towards jobs that would start in the range of like 70 to 80 here.
Oh, dude, if I went to industry, I know I could go on a much higher pay scale, but I want to go in academia.
Okay, that's fair. That's right. I forgot that you wanted to keep that edge.
Yeah, I just like academia, and if you leave it, it's really hard to get back in.
No, that's fair. So, that's fair. So that is a good point.
With a click. So thank you for that, though. I do appreciate it. The interview went really, really well. I ended up just talking about all this interesting stuff. I made a point of asking about healthcare because I know it's important in the US, and that's all fine. Unlike most of these jobs that I've had so far, I've had only 3-month contracts. This one's a 2-year position,
nice.
1 year probationary, so that's security. They said that the earliest start time would probably be about October for me because I need to finalize my PhD with the Viva and everything. But if that all goes ahead, I could be moving over to Alabama in October. Likelihood with kitten features following behind and probably after Christmas. Because it is an expensive thing to move over, and it'd probably be easier for us to maintain 2 properties for a little while and slowly transfer stuff, save up enough money to get the pets over and stuff, because that's expensive.
Yeah. And how long they have to stay, getting them over in, what is it, they have to be in quarantine for a bit and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, they don't have to be in quarantine anymore.
Oh, really?
They don't have to be in quarantine. Cool. No, not from the UK. It's only in countries that are likely to have had rabies. I've read into it.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, the UK is totally fine. I do need to get them a pet passport and all the latest vaccinations, and they need to have had vet clearance within 7 days before travel, and so on. So it is quite strict. And the other thing is, getting them there is really I really don't want to put any dogs on a Delta airline, for example. Screw that. I ain't risking their life.
Gotcha.
So we're looking at, oh my god, it's actually cheaper, weirdly enough, to get kitten features to come over on a cruise.
I was going to ask.
In a kennel.
I was going to ask, because, hey, if it's not a time issue, right? Set it up and just be like, here.
And plus, thankfully, this position does have a bit more pay than what we're used to. So, if she needs to take 2 weeks off to cruise over and, quit her job and be unemployed for a couple weeks, that's fine. We can do that.
Hey, just negotiate a little bigger relocation fee in there.
I asked for that as well. They said it's very unusual, but they'll talk to the dean. So that says to me they're quite keen to have me if they're willing to discuss it.
Hey, I always tell anybody, as long as you don't make it conditional of I won't do this unless, and you just give it as an opportunity to say, hey, it would help me significantly if all they can do is say no and still hopefully continue forward. So you never know. I like how Babs in the Irish or in the chat saying, "You best get out before Brexit."
Actually, funnily enough, October 31st, Halloween, the scariest time of the year is Brexit. So I might be out just before.
Hey, Ken,
just my wife behind the Brexit turmoil.
Yes, Cap?
Just do me a favor. Number one, don't lose your accent, and number two, if you do, don't pick up that stereotypical Southern American accent.
Oh God, no Southern drawl.
But how funny would it be to have a Scottish?
That's what I was going to say.
Scottish accent.
What would that sound like?
That'd be gold. Well, so you say
it'd be normally, except I say y'all at the end of everything.
So the funny part, Cup, is I don't know how that happened because Ken already lost his Scottish accent. He only speaks Scottish if you have him in a room with a whole bunch of other Scots. Anytime.
Okay.
Drinks and a few drinks.
Yeah, and a few drinks, because we've tried to get him on air to get a little more Scottish, and it just doesn't happen. In fact, if we need to, my gauge has always been his father, because Ken, your father, was always my benchmark, especially when I did go over there, because it took me, I don't know if I've told you this before, but it took me like 2 days of interacting with your dad before I could actually start to understand him. And so, because it was just like, whoa, okay, give me a second, and I have to really concentrate. Then after 2 or 3 days, I started to catch it a little more, like, okay. And then once I got to your grandfather, that was like stage 2, right? Stage 2 of understanding Scottish accents. You know, going up to almost
to understand my grandfather.
Right, that's like master's level.
Well, what makes it really funny is that like all of my West Coast friends are like I don't think I have a Southern accent. However, all of my West Coast friends can point it out, and they're like, "So what other stereotypes about Southern people are true?" And I'm like, "Well, let me tell you about Shumpton. We all drive pickup trucks and have gun racks in the rearview mirror." I'm like, none of that is real. Even though roadkill, depending on where you are, is quite tasty.
Hey, I've had a lot of roadkill.
If something's already died, make the most of it. Now, that's coming from a pescatarian.
Well, and I will tell you, and I will say this on your defense there, Cup, is that I had a coworker for a lot of years who, on the way to work, because he lives a little southeast of town, he'd go up a road that has a lot of deer and such, and he had it where the game warden was on his speed dial, because on the way to work, if he saw roadkill, he'd call them up to get a tag for it. Basically, you could call in and get a tag to make it legal, and he would call in work, say, "I'm going to be a little late. I just ran into some fresh roadkill, and I need to go home and process it." And so he would pick up roadkill and head back home, quickly like gut it, do everything he needed to save it so that he could come home after work and finish processing it. And about a week or two later, he'd come in and make chili. And it was wonderful. So we often had roadkill chili, and everything from deer to you name it, as long as there was enough meat to actually get. And so I support that.
Bro, I was just joking when I said that.
Oh no, I am not joking. It is absolutely a thing that has happened in my life here in Colorado. So don't think that people trying to stereotype that as Southern. Nah.
Yeah, my uncle who lived in Texas did that, or not Texas, Durango.
See?
So yeah.
I seriously think the most scary thing that has ever happened, and I'm in West Tennessee, so we were driving. It was me and my brother. We were driving down back in our old neck of the woods, maybe about half an hour outside of town, and the next thing you know, we just see an unidentifiable skeleton hanging from a tree in someone's front yard. We didn't even think twice about it. We turned around and we booked it out of there. Turns out that going 40 miles an hour down the street to see a skeleton, you kind of forget where you are. Someone was stripping a deer in their front yard Halloween Eve and left it there.
That's appropriate.
There's been a lot of stories with that, right? Like the scary, people see the scary-looking zombie held up in a garden on Halloween or the week preceding Halloween, and then it's there on November 8th, and people start getting suspicious, and then people realize this, is starting to go off, and they're like, "Oh, that's a person." Like there's been a few times that's been a legitimate true crime thing, right?
Well, didn't that actually happen here once?
It's happened around. I don't know any specific stories of it, but you hear those kind of things.
Yeah, like I want to say it was several years ago now that somewhere down south there was a black man that was strung up in someone's tree, and everyone thought that it was part of Halloween decorations because it was around that time of year. But then they started realizing, wait, it's getting bugs around it.
Plus, even if this again, your opinion is wrong again. Even if it was a decoration, generally speaking, using that form of decoration kind of has a.
It's something that's inappropriate all the time.
Yeah, it's pretty inappropriate. That's pretty even if you mean nothing, and I imagine people would do that accidentally, and I could see that happening. People ignorantly putting that up. They wouldn't do it as a malicious thing, or not everybody would do it as a malicious thing. But that lack of awareness of the fact that people would clearly be quite hurt by that, even if it wasn't the case, like right now where somebody actually died, which is obviously a lot worse.
So as we continue through,
this is such a cheery show today, right?
Right?
I think it has been quite a cheery show. I think it's.
Well, this is
there's been ups and downs, but I think it's been overall cheery.
This is a bit of a culmination of all things Show X, right? Little bits of everything that we do. No, so other things that you'd like to make sure everybody's aware of before we get into like geek and tech stuff, Ken, that you've been doing since, admittedly, officially, we're coming up on the end of what would normally be our time frame for the show, but we're going to continue going as long as people have stamina for it today. But other things that you've been doing that haven't. Hey, this is why these are energy drink mimosas, and not just regular, proper bubbly. But other things you've been doing, Ken, since we've missed you for some time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm aware that I'm taking a long.
Oh no, it's fine. This is our show.
It's been entertaining and engaging.
Yeah, I don't have anything particularly crazy else to say. I mean, there's been a lot already.
You've had some pretty good examples so far.
Yeah. So the next big thing for me, really, in terms of work-wise, is I have my Viva in approximately 1 month. A Viva, I've said it before, but I know it's kind of a niche term, so I'll explain it again. Yeah, a Viva is a oral examination. Please don't laugh at the phrasing. Where basically I handed my thesis, which is about 180 to 200 pages of A4 page of code and text and imagery and 4 years of work, right? The culmination of 4 years of work, handed over to 2 examiners. One's an internal to the university, one's external, both specialists in the close to fields. And then there's a chair, and basically on a date that's a benefit that suits everybody that's going to be there. So the chair, the 2 examiners, and myself, we'll all meet together and book out the day, and we'll sit in a meeting room and they will examine me until they are satisfied that I have earned my doctorate.
Gotcha. It's the so real. Is it like defending your thesis, that kind of piece of it, but more specific to? Gotcha.
This is the examination. Like, there's checkpoints along the way, but you're never examined in a PhD until your Viva. This is the one thing. Now, the truth of it is, the vast majority of cases, they'll have already made their decision walking in because it's based on your thesis. But the Viva is there to do 3 things. To prove that it's your work, to prove that it's an original piece of work, and to prove that you know where that fits in literature as well. So if you can pass all that and they are good with the thesis, you can either get a straight up pass, they're like, boom, you're a doctor, you walk out a doctor now. Or they say, boom, you're a doctor, but you've got 6 months to do some fixes. Usually that's like spell checking and minor things like fix that graph so it's prettier, that kind of thing. Or you could say, boom, you're a doctor, but you have 18 months to resubmit a whole section of your thesis. Or they can say, you're not a doctor yet, you need to resubmit your thesis entirely. Or they can say, you're not a doctor, nor will you be, we think you should resubmit it as a lower degree, like a master's. Or they can say, no, we don't think you've even done enough work for that, get out. The number of cases where that has happened, I think, is on like less than 10 ever in the UK in the past 100 years. Like, people just don't, like, you don't get to that phase because there's checkpoints along the way, so you shouldn't be getting failed outright at the end. That does make sense. It's mostly a question of how many corrections you're going to get and how much time. A lot of people do drop out at the very end phase if they're given like a resubmit, because if you're told you need to do your whole PhD again, and you're like, well, my funding's run out, I need to go get a job.
Yeah. Yikes.
You know, you can't just, you don't want to spend the next 4 years doing your PhD again. You just can't do it, so most people give up at that stage. And there's various levels of giving up depending on each section. But most people get the 6 month corrections, and that's kind of what I'm aiming for, is the 6 month corrections. Because in the end, there will be some grammatical errors or some important pieces of the literature I'll have missed out or something. So that's what I'm aiming for, and that's my next big thing and my next big stress. But other than that, that's been everything I've been up to in the past little while. Again, that's the most shows in the row I have ever missed in Show X history. So I must apologize.
You have been on an up ramp of all the things you've had to prepare for and what you've been doing. But the nice thing, and that's one of the things I've enjoyed about doing the show, is that we've been able to make it so that Ken and I can both host it, and in such a way that if one of us is gone, we still try desperately to make sure a show happens. Because the nice thing is I've been pretty proud of us in that we have only ever really missed a handful of weekends in all of the years we've been doing it, where neither of us were able to. Because even on the low end, it's something where if I wasn't here, Ken, you've been able to do shows of you gaming and playing things like Factorio or stuff like that with everyone. And so still continuing to get out there and engage with our fan base and trying really desperately to make sure that we keep doing something for you. And it's funny because I've had other people hear me talk about how often we do the show and that it's every weekend. And they've mentioned, like, wow, Wayne, you guys are really dedicated to this. You are always making an effort to get out there. And so I hope you guys feel the same way and find that to be true, that we, you know, this is probably the one thing I have in my life other than work that is scheduled religiously, essentially, to be done. That I have carved out time for. I mean, there's other times where some weekends we let things take priority. But outside of those specific events, we try to make sure we're here. And so, I mean, hopefully you guys appreciate that. We try to give you something. You know, sometimes it's just us chatting. Like last week, just me going on about Comic-Con and such. I think, wait, no, was that last week?
I don't know, but you were featured in a video for Comic-Con.
Well, it's something I was aware of, right, that I knew was coming, and that I had what's the official site? Is it Cosplayers Get Coffee, I believe? And it's its own site. I'll double check it real quick just to see. Let's see.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Players.
That was at the beginning of the video.
Getting Coffee. And the site itself, is Cosplayers Getting Coffee. And it's one where they do this regular thing to it where they bring up episodes of people that are cosplayers interviewing each other, essentially. And so I was featured on the San Diego Comic-Con episode, which isn't on their front page yet, but is on their YouTube channel. If you go to, you can watch. And it was interesting seeing how they put it all together. Let's see, maybe under their episodes list does it have it. No, they don't have it there yet. But it's one that on the actual YouTube channel, you can catch it out, that me in my Mr. Satan cosplay was able to interact. And like I said, I was going against a gentleman in a Luke Cage cosplay, and it was really fun, really cool. And it was interesting to see how they're editing from all the various ones that were put together to kind of show their piece. So check it out. It's cool. And so, yeah. So that was really cool. And Roxy knows about it, so hey. But, hey. So they caught me, and it's funny how I didn't expect it, but as towards the kind of the final piece of the interview, they highlight one of the things I had to comment about. One of the things that is needed more in cosplay, from my opinion, I was talking about diversity and such, and kind of how you show off certain characters and why I choose to cosplay the characters I do. And the little shout out to myself, I guess, is that they included a little overlay clip of, is it Shia LaBeouf, I think? Doing a little like slow clap kind of thing over it. As to what I was saying, I can only assume to kind of encourage the idea of like preach on, but and my comments on that if you choose to see that video. So yeah,
it was fun to watch.
But so yeah, we try to make sure that we get things going. So let's see. I don't think I had anything too particular I wanted to bring up for myself over the last week. I know, like I said, I'm getting prepped for. I've had a few little things where interacting with people in social environments. I had a friend of mine from work who is leaving as doing a normal adjustment, someone that's from a different country who is heading out, and so those last moments of saying bye, knowing that it's going to be a significant bye.
Oh, yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, it's one where they come in for a minor time, we get them on our team for about a year, and then they transition out, and so it's something I've dealt with for years now, multiple team members doing this, but one that's kind of like, man, every time it's a little rough, because as I mentioned to her, and I was trying to not, but also trying to get her to tear up about it in the comment that, yeah, it's going to be rough when I come into work again Monday, walk by your desk expecting to see you there in the morning, and it's cleared out. And she kind of did the little slightly ugly face, like, I was like, yee, that's right. But so there's a little of that. I also had an opportunity to hang out with another friend of mine who used to be actually another work friend for way back when, who had left military service some time back and had been working on doing investments and other stuff like that and transitioning what job she was doing, but she's having a going away. But it was actually for her birthday. But she's getting ready to transition at the end of this month head out to L.A. It's cool because her significant other works for SpaceX. And so I actually have some desire to maybe poke him a little bit and say, you should come on my show. I want to hear about SpaceX things, right? I think that fits our whole tech and geek world.
Yeah, it'd be very cool.
I should actually reach out to some of the other people I know who work for various organizations, see what they can talk about. Gentlemen.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I'll just say, like, gentlemen I know from King of the Nerds who works for NASA and helped design their parachute systems for entry into Mars and stuff for some of their things, to other things, like just all these levels of, like, I know some really smart people out there. Yeah, I should have them come on to share their talent, things like that. Uh-oh, did Copy find the link? All of my my internet people that help me out. Yep. That sure looks like it. Copy found the link, so if you check out the link in the IRC, that goes directly to the show or the episode I was in, and so feel free to check that out. And so
that's so cool.
But with that though, so
SpaceX is.
He's in 3 minutes 55. 3 minutes 55 in.
Yeah, they do link it in the comments there, kind of how to get to each person. But still, they're a neat team. I like those guys who were doing it. That was fun. Other than that, like I said, I was just saying bye to people. I had a cousin of mine who was traveling through doing some business that stopped in real quick, which was fun. But on the way back, after traveling all day, like an epic, driving out to the west end of the mountains that morning, spending time out there, and then coming back on the way down from the mountains, met me actually where we were celebrating my friend's birthday, because it was an outdoor pub that they were having karaoke. And this is a cousin of mine who's quite a good singer, has been noted for it for some time, and so he was, what do I want to say, it was a tease or kind of a level of like, yeah, that would make my day better, is just, finishing up with some karaoke and singing in front of people. So he met up there after driving on the road another 5 hours coming back, and sang the night away a couple songs and things, which was a lot of fun. And then, ending the night heading back home, and then we didn't get home till late, stayed up till like 3 a.m. chatting just because I don't get enough time to hang out with him. So that was a lot of fun. But really, that's kind of what I've been up to. I've been not doing a lot of other stuff. I am trying to get ready, and this kind of translates a little bit over to some...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
In that...
The latest Geek Cred intro ever on Show X history, I think. That's after the official end of the show, technically.
Right? It happens. But that I've been working on. I have a plan to get maybe 2 costumes done before the end of the month. One for sure that I have to get done, because my next adventure is going to be Dragon Con, and I fly out the last Wednesday of the month to go do that for the weekend. And I am working on a clown cosplay, and actually the one if you want to look it up specifically, you can just look up on any query for Jack the Clown. It's a specific character from the Universal parks that is from their Halloween Horror Nights. And so if you look up Jack the Clown, you can find images of the character I'm trying to work on.
My.
Wow. It sounds like a metaphor.
No, not in this case. But you could see that in the...
what they're calling it these days.
Yeah.
I was kind of confused because I saw the picture of working on the patterns and the pattern piece in the back, and it showed like clown suit, and I was like, nah, he can't be working on a clown costume, but okay.
Yeah.
Creepy clown. Joker on us or something.
No, very creepy clown. And I got to get a few other pieces to try either do... I'd love to get some prosthetics for it, but I haven't found the right ones, and I haven't found the right mask, so I may just do makeup. But that should be an interesting one. Yes, let's see.
Especially if you get in a character.
Well, and that I got to learn, because this character, there's some videos of it, because he portrays it each year. How is he described? He's a very self-centered character that hates when other people are getting attention. And most of the show goes around him basically torturing people in various ways. And so it's an interesting one that I haven't seen live, but would like to, because my friend that I cosplay with that has done various ones from Hamilton with me has a Chance the Clown costume, which is one of his sidekick characters. That she's done for a couple years, and so she's never had a Jack the Clown to cosplay with, so I signed up saying, sure, I'll do that, and have not ever, and so yes, I have patterns laid out, and we'll see if I can make it work. So that's what I'm currently trying to knock through real quick. Also, yes, I think that's totally appropriate to mention Roxy in the chat, because I saw your post about that on social media saying, your geek cred, that your 6-year-old daughter has started to play Tomb Raider, and literally the first thing you handed her, the controller, she was on it. Claims she learned learned by watching you play, and apparently she has also watched your hands on the controller, not just the screen, and so she has full control of moving around and keeping the camera angles behind her.
That's cool.
How proud you are. That is awesome, actually.
That's adorable, actually. Really cool.
It is one of those things that I've always...
Parenting goals.
Right, exactly. No, absolutely. It's when I hear of geek parents passing on a skill to their kids, and it's even been to my nieces, right, and nephews and such, that their parents, being my siblings and in-laws, have brought their kids up, my nephews and nieces, as geek. And so I've heard stories throughout their time of things they've done that I was just like, as an uncle, just super proud to say, yeah, look at my nephews and nieces being little geeks. How cool is that? It's like one of my goals in life is to be able to raise a child to be as geeky as me, if not more. So that's awesome, Roxy. Grats. Oh, gosh.
Absolutely.
Let's see.
Parkouring around. That's
so
cool.
I think those are some of the main things. Only other thing I did is I finished watching what's available, or all of the seasons of Lucifer that are on Netflix, all 4 seasons. I find that I still quite enjoy it, and it's fun because at the end of it, I'd heard it at either Comic-Con or just after, but they show it on the season now on Netflix, where it did at the very end of the credits kind of say, and it's confirmed that there is a next season coming. And so I'm excited for that. That's the main thing I think I finished watching of anything else. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to when it's been geek as such this last week. Trying to think. Other than that,
Cool.
prepping for my cousin to move out tomorrow. Little bits of him deciding.
Oh, that's going to be so weird, dude.
It'll be a thing. I'm not too worried about it. It's something where, I mean, he's been here for a decade, just over. And it's, a nice thing is it's him moving up in the world and finding a job that's going to allow him to progress his career. And so it's all positive. And it's going to be an interesting thing, though, to eventually come home. It'll be like starting tomorrow evening, probably after work. Coming home, and it's just myself and the cats. And so, because I haven't had that for ever, essentially. So that'll be an interesting transition. But that's kind of the main things that have been going on for me this week. I was trying to think. I don't think I had any other notes about that. And so just doing our little bits of actual geek cred and dysfunctional deviations. So those are the main things. So beyond that, yeah. So, Ken, did you have... Well, actually, is there anything else any of us want to talk about the show itself with ShowX? Because we still have the opportunity to go into any immediate or things we want to talk about when it comes to articles and stuff that have been going on, news that's going on in geekdom and things like that. There's always things to talk about. But just in general about the show itself and things like that, I'm more than happy and would love to hear more from everybody about their thoughts on ShowX and VTW Productions, things like that. Admittedly, I forgot because I was running around in this shirt doing stuff, getting ready for the show today. I was going to switch into my VTW gaming shirt and such, but didn't do so.
Oh, yeah, I've got mine. I should have put that on as well.
I was
just, sorry.
Yeah, but So there's little things like that, but yeah. And so, but other people's thoughts on the show in general, just kind of talking about this as I raise the bubbly about our 400th episode that we're continuing on. So cheers to everyone.
So we had mentioned earlier, this is 400. My first time on the show was 200. And you were talking earlier about issues with the show. Poor episode 200, Comcast Internet. Dropped for a few minutes, came back, and then dropped.
That was like intermittent and then dead.
45 minutes of dead air on the show because of that. It's like, well, crap.
Nice thing is I'm pretty sure I went in and edited the episode so that you don't actually have to suffer through it.
You did. Yep,
but
I remember.
Man, that was a pain in my rear. Oh, nothing gets me more livid than... Because it's like... One, I pay for business class internet, so it should be pretty solid. Two, I really only need it to be that solid for about, on average, 2 to 3 hours a day, once a week. That's it. That's all I'm really asking for. It's just give me my Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern and be solid for like 2 hours, please. And so whenever it would go out, and this is back in the day when the hardware was actually bad after the lightning striking us, it seemed to always want to die right in the afternoon during the show, and it was almost always an hour in that all of a sudden it would just start crapping out on us, and I was so
There's something about
off.
that consistent usage of upload of bandwidth that makes internet poop out all the time. It's because it's just ISPs are not used to that. They're very much used to, over the years, of people downloading a crap ton, especially in the torrenting eras.
Right.
And in Netflix, they're just streaming down. But only recently with the advent of Twitch
streaming
and
and
YouTube Live, everybody's now uploading, and they're like, what do we do?
Yeah, we have to... Well, and that's why I pay for business class, right? Because I have unlimited bandwidth because of that. So they are not supposed to do anything to minimize my traffic. That's why I invest more in the internet. It's funny, right? Because, yeah, it benefits me throughout the week, but how often am I really pushing the bandwidth throughout the week? It really is only for the show. It was the show and Game Fest were the only times that I cared that I had consistent bandwidth. And so, yeah. But I still argue that the day that I can get fiber to this house, done. Doing that in a heartbeat.
They just installed it into our neighborhood. I think it's right outside in the path. I don't know if it's connected to the house directly, but it is like I walk over it when I'm leaving the house.
You only need fiber up to the last 100 feet or so, and then you can run copper and still get gigabit uploads and downloads.
Yeah.
And my challenge is I don't even have that in my area because there's no incentive for them to do it. And and Babs, I understand and agree because it's one of those funny things. Depending on your ISP or your cell phone provider, was the one we hear about the most, I think, for everyday life for people. Different companies seem to do better or worse in different areas.
Yeah.
Out here, it's sad to say, but Comcast is the choice de jure out in Colorado. You guys have suffered through CenturyLink.
Twice.
Which is the other side company, which is the DSL-based, so copper phone line-based company, where they just seem to do terrible. They're so bad.
It was horrid.
And it's funny, right? Because Tom Bad Guy and Kuro, both in the chat, you guys are very aware because you've both worked for, around, or other things with different ISPs down from Pueblo. And so you have your own understanding both in front of and behind the scenes in some ways for these companies. It's just so weird. But yeah, I think universally here in Colorado, CenturyLink, the DSL company, is crap.
Yeah.
By comparison to the other things. But I say by comparison, the only other thing you have access to is Comcast. There's a handful of little areas that have fiber and have other companies. But essentially the deals that these big ISPs have made with the different cities pretty much keeps a monopoly because they won't even let infrastructure growth happen in most areas. So here's my little opinion is wrong kind of thing, but strictly a technology. I am such, and you've heard it from me before, an advocate for, for having each city have its own ISP, create their own and own their own fiber and stuff in the ground. And if they need to lease out some of the bandwidth or parts of their fiber to the different things, so getting municipal ISPs, I am a huge advocate for that. Such a huge advocate. Oy. So yeah. Anyhow, so beyond those, and the nice thing is, general, one of my things I invest most in on the show is keeping the technology going behind it. It's funny, and when I've had issues with hardware dying and stuff like that, it's probably the first thing I will turn around and make an investment in that day. If something explodes, I will be down at the candy store at Micro Center within an hour trying to buy new things to get it fixed, where I will spend money on those things.
And that's one of the nice things about living in a big city like this is you don't have to go on Amazon and overnight it or go to Newegg and hope that it gets here fast. You just go down to Micro Center.
Yep. Micro Center is such a good store. It is, as I always try to tell people, if they've ever been to a Fry's, it is Fry's without the fluff.
Yeah.
You get rid of all, like Fry's has space. And so they carry so many options for so many things. But if you really go through there, most of it's garbage. Like most of the stuff they carry at Fry's, I wouldn't even look at. Whereas you go to Micro Center and pretty much everything there is quality. So they have the same variety of things, but they only carry the best of those things, including their huge build out of their makerspace and having all the little components and stuff you can make. It's so good.
I love that stuff. I love makerspaces, and my library just started doing a similar thing with the checkout like hammers and other crafting
actual tools and stuff. Cool. Oh, that's so awesome.
No, that was cool though, because when we went to get Beck's new camera and an SD card for it, I kid you not, the employee spent over half an hour trying to find, because he said, I just bought this SD card for this price. Why is it not this price? Why can't I find a competitor out there? He spent a half an hour, and then he just got a manager to override it.
Well, because they price match. They price match against online services and stores.
Yeah, he tried finding it online for the price that he paid, and he couldn't find it. He's like, I know I paid this much. Can we just do it for him?
Well,
and I'm like, okay.
No, they have such quality people. This is their free advertisement for anybody. Because the nice thing is there's Micro Centers throughout the country.
Yeah.
People, if you have an opportunity and it's not so much further than any other kind of technology computer store you might go to, check out a Micro Center. I've heard pretty consistent praise from all of their stores across the U.S. And so I will throw up my hands and say they're wonderful. They were my lifeline after CompUSA went away. Because as a brand, CompUSA was one of the focused computer stores where you go in there and you knew they might have some knowledgeable people.
Yeah.
Versus your other big box stores where you're like, hey, you carry technology. But I love the meme, right, of the guy from the, not from the office, from Parks and Rec, walking down an aisle with a shopping cart where he looks at the guy and the guy's like, can I help you? He's like, I know more than you. And it's one of those things that, that used to be my opinion going into almost any technology store. And then you go to Micro Center, and I actually have to stop and step back and go, like, you might know as much as me. Huh. And in specific subjects, you might know more. Mm-hmm. I will give you that nod.
Didn't we go to Best Buy the other day, and I was asking him,
Thank you, Tabby. Ron Swanson.
Is this mouse optical or laser? And they looked at me like, what does that mean? I'm like, you're kidding me, right?
Big box stores. Many of them will die, not just because of Amazon. So it's interesting, and there's a whole other discussion there about wireless technology like 4G, 5G, and all those. I know I've talked about on the show before how I have a serious heartache on the way advertising is allowed to cause people to lie or allow companies to lie to their people, where 5G currently does not exist in any format in the United States. Any company that is currently advertising in some format that they are providing 5G coverage should be sued heavily. I was trying to think of the right consequence. Because my cell provider, AT&T, throwing it out at you, likes to say that I get 5G E coverage, which is a marketing term for technologies that they use to enhance your experience beyond the traditional 4G thing, and thus is why they can say it is 5G.
Yes, it's 4G with extra ads.
Well, so what they're saying is 5GE is strictly a marketing term because 5GE isn't a thing, and it does not actually apply to bandwidth or any of what the spec that is being referred to does. It is a way that they were able to advertise and put it in front of people so that people think they're getting 5G because that's going to be the new marketing buzz as it comes out for speed and bandwidth. And it's such garbage that they're able to say that it is 5GE. That should be illegal. It should be, so this is 4G. It's just like LTE versus just 4G. It's still the same technology. It's within the same overall class of what 4G means. They just added to try to say it's something more, which is such crap. Thank you, Copy. That's one of the things I love about Canada, their truth in advertising laws. I wish we had them in the States.
Yeah, those are great. So people were asking me the speeds. So 3G, if you remember that technology, was a maximum speed of 384 kilobits per second. Woo! So to download a full HD film, it would take about a day.
Of course, that was before
4G
HD.
Has about 100 megabits per second, so it would take about 7 minutes to download a full HD film. 4G Plus, which is what I'm currently on, is 300 megabits per second, which is about 2.5 minutes, so it's about 3 times faster than 4G. Then 5G is a theoretical 1 to 10 gigabits per second. So it would take you a few seconds to download a full HD film, possibly 4 seconds.
Which is essentially as fast as the best in-house wired connections most people have.
Now, this is the coolest part, and this is where I think Wi-Fi might even die in the age of 5G. 3G's latency was 65 ms. 4G's latency was about 40 to 50 ms maximum. And 5G's ms is a theoretical 1 millisecond.
Yeah, no. Well, the funny part is when you look at those technology specs, I would even argue, how often do you truly feel like you're getting even 4G bandwidth from your providers?
Yeah, right.
Because what they're basically saying is you're connected to radios that could provide certain levels of access, but all their little, the fine print that says, but it doesn't guarantee it. And so I just, that's the part I hate. I hate the ability for them to advertise as though they're providing services they aren't really providing. And I have a huge heartache over that. And I wish we could adopt what Copy just talked about with Canada about truth in advertising, except that we know every company in the United States would lobby against it and cause it to never happen because they couldn't deal with the fallout of having to be truthful. And so it's such garbage.
Especially CenturyLink. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Well, I mean, they're all guilty of it to some level. Some worse than others, some more egregious than others. I just don't believe that AT&T should be allowed to market it as 5G anything because it's not actually touching the 5G spec. And they've put it out there that it is the way they are classifying their technology. Yep. And that busts my chops, very much so.
Remember... I keep harping on them. Remember CenturyLink when we were at the Dry Creek apartment? They came in, they said, hey, we just installed fiber in your neighborhood. Do you want it? I'm like, yeah. And I got it, and I'm like, these are DSL speeds. And I argued with them. I canceled them. They ended up not canceling my service and trying to charge me like all this ridiculous amount of money. Didn't give me the price promised. 5 times charge. Whatever. A year later, CenturyLink comes knocking on my door. Hey, we just installed fiber to your neighborhood. I'm like, either you were lying to me a year ago or you're lying to me now. Go away.
Oh, it's so bad. That, and unfortunately, because of the monopolies and for most people in the ISPs, when they do provide the potential for greater service, man, do they charge a premium for it because they don't have competition. Because there are areas in the United States where you can get synchronous gigabit bandwidth off fiber for $80 a month. Yeah. And here, to get similar, and even though Comcast does not provide fiber in this area of town yet, the areas downtown where they do, to get synchronous, what is it? Well, especially business class 400 megabit up and down, is somewhere in the range of like $200 to $300 a month. And I don't even think they offer true gigabit and such. And so I'm just so... It's annoying to no end that they're able to have such a diverse thing in the market versus doing what our government asked them to do, and they said they would to get all the tax breaks they did, and provide increase in actual performance. Oh, that's the cats doing bad things, or someone accidentally walking through their beams. That's I have to keep them out of areas because bad cats. But anyhow, as like this, talk amongst yourselves. I will see what's happening.
They're now pawing the laser.
Well, it's usually either they played with something or something got set down.
I accidentally set my bag in front of it earlier. I don't know what's going on.
So I think I saw that in our neighborhood, Comcast does offer either 1 or 2 gigabit, but it's over $1,000 a month. I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome, but no. Yeah. So I was like, well, no.
That's probably because they'll have to install the network there.
Probably the hardware, yeah. That was my thought. So.
Yeah. So maybe it's like $1,000 for a year so you can pay off the hardware installation, then it goes down? I don't know.
Yeah.
Because that kind of makes sense. But at the same time, I don't understand why this is private in the slightest. This is an infrastructure that is used by multiple companies, and the mess that they have in trying to contractually allow multiple companies to use the fiber network that's under the ground, or the copper wire network, or the telephone wires, and so on, is such a pain. It should really just be publicly owned. It would make it so much easier, and then you can, the private stuff can go on top of that. That's fine, but
yeah, but that's why I agree with Wayne. It's the infrastructure should be.
It should be owned by the people and everything around, because we paid for it with our taxes, whether people know it or not. It's just that
I agree, comrade. I agree.
Right? Well, so your opinion is wrong. Yeah. Oh no, it's anyhow. The United States is more socialist than people like to label it. The it's that all of our taxes essentially already have paid for what should be fiber infrastructure throughout the United States. There's historical things where we gave all the ISPs a ton of tax breaks to upgrade all of our bandwidth, and they never did. And instead of holding them to task, the government basically said, here's billions of dollars, but And so we all suffer for it, and somehow it got turned around where we still have to pay for it.
That's how the government is effectively elected, is because these companies support them. That's because the companies are in charge of who's in charge of your country, not the people.
If only. Yep, anyhow.
Yeah.
Trying not to get all into that. But yeah, and that's, oh gosh, let's see, I'm looking at what Babs said, where he said they ran fiber all the way from the building I was back to the data center, gig up and down for $600 a month. What pisses me off about that is once you have the hardware there, the cost for bandwidth is not what they advertise, right?
No. Yeah.
It's base, I won't say free, but bandwidth is a misnomer. There is not a limit to the number of bandwidths you can consume. There is not. You can saturate a stream, and so depending on how much overall bandwidth is available for everyone to use, you can saturate, but the amount of bits that you transfer in a month, in a year, in a whatever, should not have a cost associated to it. The overall chunk and speed of how much of that bandwidth you're using, depending on what's available, I could see that to a degree, paying for your speed access. But having a limit on the number of actual bits you can send is such garbage. It's such garbage. That's the one that pisses me off probably the most. And that's why I went business class, because it has no bandwidth cap. And, oh gosh, so many things that piss me off about all that. Because if we all had fiber, we could all be like connecting to each other constantly and have servers all around the world and just be so good. There'd be a reason for me to build out my NAS even further so I could support like hundreds of gigs or terabytes of storage for everyone. That'd be so good. A reason to build a petabyte. Anyhow. Oh, let's see. Other things I had looking at, because officially I think we're transitioned over to, since, hey, I've been able to get all these working again.
Wow.
Our
technology, news, and more. Today on the Geekoscope.
Haha! I have to correct myself. Well, not correct myself. Something must have changed with infrastructure in my neighborhood. While you were away, I was telling them that they wanted to charge $1,000 a month for gigabit in my neighborhood. They must have the infrastructure in place, because it's now down to $89 a month. Like, holy crap!
Which is tenable.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. That is not what I saw 6 months ago
Well,
when we were
go
moving.
get that. Because what it means is they finally installed stuff, and they're not trying to fleece people for the access of first getting installed, because heaven forbid they pay up front to upgrade your infrastructure so that later they can just keep charging people service fees every month.
Yeah.
Gosh, do I hate that all of that. Well, and I will tell you, Babs, there's that piece about both with municipal and general things that as they redo some of the bandwidth out there for things like what used to be the broadcast network stuff for television, and they have those various wavelengths available again, doing things like mesh internet for a neighborhood. Part of the thing I was really looking at is I actually did look into what it would be to drop a trunk to my own house and basically buy my own bandwidth to be an ISP, because there's some areas people have done this, and using basically that technology of a mesh network over an entire neighborhood, that if I could get my neighborhood all on board with it, I could essentially retire and become my own ISP. But, yeah, things like that. There's so many ways this could be done that are better. If only we had an FCC that cared about the people and not the companies. Oh, wait. Again, rants. So many rants. As I go back...
Cries in a Jeep pie.
As I go back and look at the various news articles. So what's funny is I've had some news articles in our list of to-dos, because you get to see the notes, Ken, that no one else does, right? That I have had a list of things on here that are so long. And there's ones I've wanted to...
There's constantly an FCC or a bunch of bastards list as well, which is almost like half
I can look
list.
up any day and see something that the FCC is doing currently that's trying to take away your rights as a consumer and allow... Well, the one that the Attorney General did recently, here's an article or thing to discuss about people. Excuse me. When the Attorney General Barr, that's currently in charge of things for the United States, went to a discussion, I forget the exact, I'd have to look up an actual article, but essentially, crux of it, told all of the technology companies that they need to, for the security of our nation, put in backdoors to all software that they produce.
Oh, no.
How do you feel about that, Ken? What do you think that would open us up to?
I think that is another step towards proving that the United States is not a first world country, because that kind of thing is not something that a country who claim that they love freedom would have, right? I mean, if you say you love freedom, but then also all software must be, everything you do in the privacy of your home must be viewed by somebody else. That's no longer freedom, is it? So...
Well,
I would say it's a horrendous thing politically, socially, and I think as a country, the fact that nobody rose up and there aren't riots in the streets from that merely being mentioned says a very depressing thing about the state of affairs and what people are used to in terms of being stepped on by the government of the U.S.
And I will say, though, I will make the point that the U.S. is not the first country to do this, because this is already essentially law in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
And so... But
China.
Well, it's just China every day.
Entirely.
Right, and I know there's some talking points, because there were some quotes of things he said that to me felt alarmist, and I feel like everyone else who hear it would be like, "Wait, what? How does that make any sense?" Because let's see, I really want to say he suggests, quote, and this is the argument for that. The residual risk of vulnerability resulting from incorporating a lawful access mechanism is materially greater than those already in the unmodified product, saying that it is worth more to add that potential loophole or risk for people to exploit than it is for the risk of having it in there. And let's see. He says that some argue that to achieve at best a slight incremental improvement in security, it is worth imposing a massive cost on society in the form of degraded safety. Oops. Oh?
Doctor?
And here's the one that kind of got me, that I was just like, shows how out of touch he is. And it's the one that says, the risk, he said, was acceptable because, quote, We are talking about consumer products and services such as messaging, smartphones, email, and voice and data applications.
Madness.
Not talking about protecting the nation's nuclear launch codes. And so for him, the idea that it is okay to build backdoors and for the government to be able to come in and look at all of our technology, our phones, our computers, our access to things, the messages we send, is okay because it's just all of our personal information and not the ability to nuke somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That somehow that is the only point, that the ability to launch missiles at some other country is the only thing we actually need to protect. That us as individuals should not actually have to worry about our privacy or our own things because that shouldn't matter to us, versus the ability for bad guys to get caught when they're using technology. And what the garbage is that nonsense?
Yep. Well, it's a lot easier to be a corrupt government if you have that much power over the people and all your political enemies, because you know exactly what they've been up to, you know all their inside secrets, yada yada yada, right?
Oh yeah, when you can target your people ahead of time because of the open discussion they've had about freedom of things, when they disagree with a government that's totalitarian and things like that, and now they can be targeted and taken out before the opportunity for it to grow up. I don't know, things like that, like other, non-first world or dictatorship countries do. China, North Korea, things like that control infrastructure or control everything, right? All the information, and they police everything. I have no desire to live in a country where that becomes the norm. Just throwing it out there.
Absolutely not.
I truly believe that we should be able to have our discussions wherever we want, not have to worry about who's listening in. Big Brother, 1984, all those classic things.
I believe the U.S. is still in a state that it can be saved from
insanity. Yes.
Let me call it like postmodern capitalism, extreme capitalism, right? Where the company is more prevalent and making money is more important than the individual. Because people often say like, oh, if you don't believe in capitalism and extreme capitalism, you are a communist. Like, it's actually kind of a grayscale. It's not a bullying one or the other thing. Like there's a reason the taxes exist still. Even in the most capitalistic societies and so on, and I think there is still a salvageable element there, but I think that it needs people to, take not the red pill because that's already got its own connotations. They need to wake up from this level of inception and see what's going on, see the real mechanisms that are influencing the voting mechanisms in there, the gerrymandering that goes on, all this stuff, and the fact that private companies have any say in government is madness. Or any religious places have any say in government is madness.
Oh no!
Anyway, I think we've gone down. Your opinion is wrong, rabbit hole.
A little bit. So it happens. Let's see. So, but it is still something that I don't know. That is my general discussion thought on the world of why that is so wrong to me, right? That just shouldn't be a thing anyhow. But I wanted to throw that one out because that's a more recent one. It's something that I like to make sure that our people are informed. You can make decisions based on what your thoughts on the subject are. You've heard mine. And just when I hear stories about things like that where the Attorney General, basically lawmakers, or the people who are defining law and how things are prosecuted in this country are making statements that are so egregious. And I want to make sure people are aware, because I've run into a lot of places and a lot of people, because of where people consume their information, that I hear back that, oh, I never heard that. And that's what scares me, is how many people, because they choose to consume their media in certain locations, and those media outlets don't care to inform them about those subjects.
Oh, yeah. It's
that part
absolutely
of my duty.
A problem of echo chambers. It's a problem of echo chambers, but it's also a problem of plugging our ears and saying, oh, that's boring, or oh, I've already read that, or I know it's terrible, but I don't want to spend every day reading about how bad things are in this. I get it, right? But instead of just passively reading it and feeling bad, we need to stand up and say, this isn't right. There's something going on here that isn't acceptable, and it's harming our own personal freedoms, and it's harming the things that the country was founded upon, and that should speak to most people in the U.S. as something that's not great.
Well, when you actually look at what it means to be free, it kills me how many people, and I forget who the quote was from, right, about people who are willing to give up freedoms for security deserve neither. that essential distillation of it.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that I do my duty by just trying to provide information, and sometimes it's got a bit of bias on it. I'm letting people know my opinion, but I will always offer up why I feel the way I do. And I encourage everyone to do their own research, look at the subject I brought up, and look at it from multiple angles and make their own decision based on that. It's not my job to think for you. It's my job to maybe raise a hand and say, maybe I think you should pay attention to this. Because I also can't... I'm one of those people, and I wish society, your opinion is wrong, I wish society would allow us to get back to conversation like we talked about, where it is okay to have dissenting opinions, to not agree with each other, and instead of throwing some wall up between another group and saying, because you disagree with me, your opinion doesn't matter, that's different than being wrong, it doesn't matter, and thus just ignoring it, for people to look at an issue, hear to the opposing views of it, and then go their own direction to research both sides of something to be better informed and thus make their decision. Because I'm okay with someone making a decision that I wouldn't make as long as they were well informed about that decision. Because they may have different motivations, different priorities than I do. But when I find out somebody makes a decision based on a lack of information and just a feeling or a general belief, that bothers me.
What really terrifies me about the state of things in the U.S. is things I've been reading, like about, you know, the congressman standing up and discussing certain things. They get asked a question, they're like, "Oh, I didn't read the document." It's like,
oh gosh,
your job is to read documents. In these
kind
cases.
of important. Yeah.
And it's just a thing. Anyway, this is going down a rabbit hole that I think we should. I actually recommend we go on and play some video games.
Hey, so one of the things that, yes, Ken and I talked about is after talking about the show, celebrating our 400th, having some good drinks and bubbly, and sharing this with all of you and our friends here locally, that this is an opportunity because Ken does not have to suddenly transition and do more work on a paper because his thesis is done, checked, and now he just has to argument it later, is that we have some time to play some video games. Hey, do this whole thing that kind of built up the culture we're a part of. And so we would love to invite you guys after the show, quote unquote, to jump into likely the Discord channel, because that's where we like to chat, and jump into some of the games we have available to play with each other. And it doesn't have to be all the same game, but if people want to play some various things, to jump in those together. I think earlier, Ken and I were playing with some Brawlhalla, because that's free for everyone. I think it actually supports up to like 8 people or something. Or Super Smash.
I think it's 4 for some maps, 8 for others.
Bigger for others. But it's basically a Super Smash Brothers knockoff that's free to play on the PC. And so that's something that everybody could jump and grab. And as we'd said in our pre-show time frame when we were playing it, it's like a 300 meg download. And so it's something everybody should be able to get hold of and jump on very quick. But as well as jumping into other games, yes, Supreme Commander is always a fun one. But for us, we were trying to focus on some of the free-to-plays, so there's things like Rocket League and League of Legends and some of the other ones out there. I did post earlier. If
I now have League installed.
Nice. That if people want to look at it, although I think it's a pretty big install, so I should have said it like last week, with StarCraft 2, since it is by base free-to-play. And what got me actually to think about it was my cousin, Hostel, before he takes off, he and some other friends were playing a lot of different mods on it, because they now have custom games you can do that have a surprising number of options in StarCraft 2 for different game modes. Everything from, there's different styles like tug-of-war modes to tower defense modes to various ones that are similar to MOBAs that aren't Dota and things like that. And so lots of things to check out there. So depending on what people want to check out, check us out in the Discord just after this. And we will probably continue to keep the stream active, but we'll officially end the show. And that way people can partake with us. So there'll probably be a quick transition over there as I figure that out and see what we're going to do from there. But then we will look at the opportunity for us all to play those video games we love together. But as we transition over that, and I really do appreciate the conversation. You guys have been so active today. It's been so good that feel free to continue that in the Discord as well, except now you'll be able to hear each other. Not just us. So, if you don't have the details, feel free to message us, showx@vtwproductions.com. But if you do, let's see, do we have an easy way to link it?
They're on the website anyway. You should be able to find them on vtwproductions.com.
Yeah, because I can put out invites on, but you can come and check out the
website that we're technically a part of and stuff.
Hey, that I own and run, absolutely. We do this show primarily from it. So, with that, though, we are going to end things officially. I will let Ken do the honors like you like to do of telling us. we'll have to have you guys back on because you guys have some cool projects you're working on that we didn't get to since we were just doing what we do and talking about us.
Well, we can go into a bit now. I think it'd be fair if we did mention it. So do tell us what are the current things you want to give a shout out to? What have you been working on? Things that you want to give where can people go and check you out online and such?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So, a project I've been wanting to work on for a long time, and I finally got around to it. Hey, free time, that's a thing for real.
Similar kind of thing, right? When you finally found moments to rededicate to other efforts?
Yeah. I have wanted to build the world from my books in Minecraft. And I've toyed around with it a little bit, but I finally was able to actually get into it the last couple of weeks. Okay, maybe I'm a little obsessive about it too, but
I've gone to sleep and he's still working on it.
She went to bed at like 9 o'clock on Friday night, and I was up till midnight working on it.
I will put this in some perspective. When did you start or decide that you were going to do this effort for real and you started progressing on what you're currently doing?
Like, currently, like for real? 2 weeks?
Okay, so about 2 weeks. I say this because he has offered up, and I will put on the stream now, some screenshots from this project. And so continue to discuss what you've been doing, your effort, and I'll let people play along by being able to see it in the stream.
So probably a year ago, I started this project in Minecraft, trying to do landscaping in Minecraft on massive scales. Doesn't work. I found a third-party app called World Painter, which is allowing me to do the...
I was going to suggest that.
Yeah, it's allowing me to do the landscapes first, and then I eventually can go in and do the cities by hand, and hopefully get some folks to help me out with it. But yes, that screenshot. So that first one was from the, if anyone's read the books, from the first city, Arcanon, the biggest and oldest city. Everything in that was landscaped through World Painter, except for the wall, which I built in as reference. This is a desert scene as an experiment. This is not from any specific location, but I wanted to see what Minecraft could do.
One of those crafts.
Yeah, in terms of technology. Couldn't go very far for view. I've since found some mods that helps with that. I want it to be enjoyable for people who would rather not mod it, but I want...
You're trying to capture a feel, right?
Yeah.
From how you picture the world in your mind and in the books.
Exactly. And so I initially started trying to do a 1-to-1 scale.
Oh boy.
For reference, the central continent called Edilus in real world is over 1,200 kilometers wide. I don't have nearly enough memory on my computer to do that. Not even close. So what I ended up settling on after discussing scale and size and what would actually be enjoyable to explore versus boring is like, what did I say, 25 kilometers wide? That's still a massive scale, but...
we were talking about ways to manage... Because if you were to play in this world, right, if the opportunity was there to actually experience the world as a player within Minecraft, when does it become too arduous to travel between locations?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Versus just being able to travel somewhere and see what you would expect to see of those kind of main items, locations, or towns and things like that, the set pieces that you would want to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about ways to compress and take the overall continent, get the feel and look of it, and then focus maybe closer to a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 view on cities and architectural things that make sense versus... No, you literally have to walk all, however many miles or kilometers between these two locations. And so ways to manage that.
Yeah. And that's... I imagine they had a similar discussion when they made World of Warcraft, because... In all reality, it should take a lot longer to get from one city to the next, and it doesn't.
Well, and the scale of cities, right, would be much larger.
That's true.
Yeah.
Especially when you play, too, because one of the things that you don't get as much in World of Warcraft, and I think in almost any MMO, is how much space would really be taken up by living spaces.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Well,
inhabitants 10,000 or whatever. Like, you see, 6 houses, and you're like, okay, that's supposed to fit 10,000 peasants.
Right. Well, and I think one of the places that did it well, or one of the games, is Oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
The old Oblivion game, I think, did a good job of it, because at least in the main capital, they had houses for everybody.
Yeah, you couldn't go into everyone, but that would have been insane.
You kind of could.
Some of them, yeah.
You could go into most of the houses and pick locks and stuff like that, but the key was they had spaces for everybody that lived there, and so you had that other side where it seemed like the population wasn't that big. It's like, well, yeah, because otherwise you'd have to build it significantly more. And I had a fun mod because yay mods, found on Oblivion that actually created for the main city a second story.
Yep.
You remember that one, Ken? Because it actually made new walkways and stuff, and it added to the population and gave other NPCs some life in the world. It was brilliant, because now it felt like a lived-in city where there were far more people available, but they also did the job, the modders, of creating infrastructure for all of them. I made it just epic. Anyhow, so side note, but yeah, that's one of the challenges, right? Because you were also talking about, even in your own creation on your world, is trying to represent all the houses, right? Because your average city or your big city has how many people in it?
Yeah, tens of thousands for the first city, and then much smaller for others. But yeah, big. Very big. Think King's Landing for Arcanon.
So yeah, having to come up with some, 5,000 homes along with all the regular stuff? Yeah, sounds tenable.
That would have,
Well, and so some of the screenshots you're showing, because you did involve some mods you mentioned specifically for looks and feel, lighting mods, right?
Shaders are called in Minecraft, yeah.
Well, and
it makes a huge difference.
Well, shaders applies across the gaming world, because you'll see that people have found, I think ENB is the main type or group of shaders you can find for almost any game now, which allows essentially for a better representation of shadows and light.
Yeah,
which makes a huge difference. It actually supports NVIDIA's claim about RTX and real-time ray tracing, why it's so impactful in games, because it just provides so much depth to what you're seeing.
Oh, yeah.
So you're seeing some of the locations and stuff that are also including in the shader mods to give it that nice, decent look to it all. Because this location, the wall, is where?
That's Arcanon, which we'd seen earlier, but without the mods.
Yeah.
A few of the shots before, we were seeing the Grand Wizard Hall, which I actually had started to make a couple of years ago. It looked, it looked good for Minecraft, but then when I applied the shaders a few nights ago, I'm like, ooh.
Well, okay, so talk us through real quick, because this location is...
Okay, this one right here is actually the residential area for the Grand Wizard Hall.
Okay, that makes sense, because I was looking at the way it was organized. I was like, that is so blockish.
Yeah.
That if it wasn't a living space, I'd say it was a jail.
Yeah. Think of it as like a massive scale apartments, because they have no exterior out there. It's in its own little pocket universe outside of reality.
That makes sense. And this is now seeing it with the mod on, right? With the light mod.
The lighting mod, the shader mod, yeah. And this is the same scene at night. Because they simulate day and night, because even if you're in space, you're going to go crazy.
And so they're able to provide that as a way to have people... Because this is one of the shots, the one on the wall with the sun through, that I really appreciated.
Oh, the one earlier? Yeah, that was Arcanon.
Well, so this one...
I'm looking on the stream. That's late. Hello,
Yeah.
Where are we? Oh, I see where we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one with the sun coming through that's Arcanon. That's the capital city for the First Kingdom.
Ignore the pigs.
The pigs are not
This was an early test. This is not from the actual world I'm building. This was just a test to see if I could do the landscaping and all that. Some things to work out, such as the snow levels and that. But yeah, I had this, what I would consider an iconic scene from the first book, where two of the protagonists, Cardin and Syrah, are watching a sunset together through the open gates in the wall, and I wanted to recreate that.
And so that's where you got this look of the walls. Yeah. It looks beautiful. That's why I noted it when it first came through. So what overall is your goal with creating your world in Minecraft?
A little bit selfish, because I want to be able to explore it myself, but also to allow other people to explore it, because who doesn't? Like, every book I've ever read, especially fantasy books, I want to go explore that world. I played Lord of the Rings online for a while because Middle-earth, hell yeah. And there's a massive project going on in Minecraft for Middle-earth, by the way. That is incredible. That kind of inspired me to get going again.
It's linked on our ShowX Facebook if anybody interested.
Nice. It recently went viral, and they've got, their server has been full for 2 weeks straight because it went viral and everyone wants to help now build it. Was it you or someone at work mentioned to me, it's like, this could also help your books get a little more exposure, because if you do an impressive enough build, it
might draw people to want to know the story behind it.
Yeah.
What it is, where does this world come from, and things like that. Yeah. Which is cool. So what made you choose Minecraft of any of the various engines or ways to build things out there?
I guess because it's the one that I have the ability to make a world in. I don't have the technical know-how to I would love to do a mod in Skyrim that did parts of the city, but that would be a massive undertaking. This kind of gives me the ability to do it to scale and make it interesting and enjoyable and customizable.
Gotcha.
And also because without mods, Skyrim is not multiplayer. People, theoretically, I could put this up on a server and people could explore it together. I don't have any programming or scripting knowledge to put quests in. It would just be a world to explore, but still, that's fun, I think. And I'd love to... The reason I write is because I want people to share in these universes, and I want to give people something enjoyable and inspiring. So maybe this will inspire some folks too.
Gotcha. And your goal of overall maybe interaction with others in your world, because you mentioned building it and how other projects have gone out there and started building together, did you have a hope that maybe you might open up at some point to have some other people help you with details and such? Because I know you're building out the overall landscape, right, and the continent itself, but when you start getting to those details, right, having to kind of go through the task of making a lot of different houses and a lot of different buildings and things in different areas, or a forest and stuff like that. Some of those, I don't want to say tedious, but processes that just are time consuming.
That might be fun. That'd be cool if I could get some folks to help. I'd have to be very careful with that, just because there are trolls out there, so I would only ever let people I know
and that
personally
makes sense. And I often argue that any project like this, you take up lots of backups and versioning, so that maybe daily builds or something like that you can roll back to. Because yes, I can only imagine someone coming and flaming the world. That happens. Yeah, so that makes sense. No, I can appreciate that.
And I like Tabaxian. I don't know if I'm pronouncing their name right.
No, that's correct.
Building a community. That's another way. I'd love to get a base fandom community for the Sword of Dragons series, and this is one possible way to get fans engaged into it. And that's a good point. I like that.
Absolutely. All right. And because you brought it on the other side, as we flip over to you, Beck, I see these things hiding in these tiles over here. So what is it you want to show that you've been working on?
So I've been seeing videos on Instagram a lot lately of people basically painting with resin.
Okay, yeah, no, resin's got
usually
some great applications.
Ooh, that's a cool side project.
It's usually like a beach scene, like the waves crashing up on the beach. So I have the supplies because I do resin jewelry, so I decided I would give it a little bit of a try. So my first attempt with creating a beach scene.
Yeah, I will hold this up to the camera. So is this meant to be kind of like the flat scene, looking like as though you're looking down on it, or
from above.
Okay.
So we have the sandy beach on one end, the deep ocean on the other, crashing up onto the beach. It's actual sand from California, actual shells from California that was mixed into the resin.
Nice.
To make it a bit more solid, and then I just used acrylic paint for the first time ever to color my resin to make it more opaque rather than transparent like all of my powders do. So when I first showed it to my mom, she was like, "Oh, I thought those were clouds," and I'm like, "Well, technically, it's supposed to be the like bubbles created from it crashing up on the beach."
But I grew up on the ocean. I understand.
Yeah,
that.
And I'm like, Mom, you should know this because you grew up in California, going to the beach every single summer, and sometimes skipping school to do it. So after hearing that option, I actually started looking at. Oh no, it's getting stuck. Looking at some of my old canvases and making scenescapes
I like this
of sunsets.
So this one being more just that you see a prairie and it looks like some trees or other things on there and clouds in the sky. Excuse me. And then I really love the colors in this one, where this one being much more trees and clouds, as you said, the sunset coming off, and like the sunset off to the side.
Yeah.
And kind of looking into the details of it. That's really cool. So, no, these are pretty. I like these too because you could do this essentially, I would believe, on... Sorry, this is, Wayne's always making, adding to people's workloads. Is making these into tiles, like ceramic tiles that fit, like that you would put into other projects. So when people make backsplashes and stuff like that in their kitchen, they often do various tiles. Well, because this is almost the right size. And when you basically do that look, add a little bit of ceramic, and then you just do the little top piece that seals it.
And Kuro, if you know where I can get alcohol ink, I've been trying to find them everywhere, but no one seems to have them.
I really like the trees. Look beautiful on these.
These are not tiles. These are actually just small 4x4 paint canvases that I had purchased several years ago from, I think, Joann's probably.
Yeah. Well, but
I had another idea for them, but it never took off. So I figured since I have like 20 of these sitting downstairs in my craft room, I might as well use them for something.
Those are super pretty. That's a neat project. And that's the thing. So New Moon Crafts, right?
Yes.
For any of the things that Beck likes to put out there from her creative side of the world, besides just your writing and such and cosplay and everything else. So those are some really neat projects. I like that.
Yeah. And then a lot of the jewelry is going up on Etsy once I get these all set, because I still need to fix the back side of them.
And make it so they can do
then
something.
I can put them up on Etsy.
Nice. Well, thank you for sharing that. No, that's very creative.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And the colors, because of resin and kind of the shine of it, really pop.
Mm-hmm.
So that's beautiful.
And you did the clouds as part of the resin, so they're kind of 3D.
The clouds are in, for the landscape ones, the clouds are in the resin, but the sun and landscape is part of painting on the canvas.
Nice. So super cool, super cool. Well, thank you guys both for sharing some of your projects, things like that.
Thank you, babe, for putting that up on the
Yes,
thing.
links for everyone. Check out the chat. And so, awesome. I like that Roxy's like, ooh, that's a cool use for those. I have tons. No idea what I would make with them. So, I love having very crafty and maker-type people as an audience and friends. It's always fun to see what people more talented than I can do.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, thank you both for being on the show today. It's been very much appreciate you experiencing the 400th show with us. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, Ken, I will let you do the official walk us out of the showtime, and then we will transition things out. I'll probably kill the stream for a minute just so that we can get the separation of episodes, and then we'll probably come back up with some stream in there for us, whatever gaming we do after this. And so
Absolutely. So you have been listening to ShowX live on VisualProductions.com. We'll be back very shortly. Check us out on twitter.com/ShowX, twitter.com/DocDead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wayne and for myself. You can send us an emails to showx@VisualProductions.com. Tell us all about your geek cred, what you've been up to, any interesting news and stuff like that. In stories too. We like to just hear from you guys. Check us out on Facebook.com, search for ShowX, and you'll find us there. You can also support us on Patreon.com/ShowX, a minimum of $1 per month, and that helps us keep the show afloat for 400 plus episodes. Jeez. Thank you very much to everybody out there for taking part in the show and following us, subscribing to our Twitch channel and everything. We appreciate it so, so much, and we love our little community here. And here's to show 500 coming up in
2 years-ish.
Sooner than we'll know it.
Right? Absolutely. So with that, everyone, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for listening and watching us as we do the show. And just, let's see, to give it a go, for you, Hando, I'll give you a...
You've been listening to ShowX and VTWProductions.com. See you next zombie!
And as well for you, Pusa, because this is what has kept with us for the show for so long. Let us throw it out with the classic.
Goodbye. See you next zombie.
And with that, we're out of here, everybody. Thanks for